further proof that I may be the writer out of the two of us, but he's better at headlines than I am, because I'm looking at all these. I'm like, I wouldn't have thought of these stupid fucking word plays that I like. Like I'm really annoyed. Like it's like all these, besides new owner, who it is. Literally, you're 7 for 8 at this moment in
It is new owner who
ABS
it is.
headlines.
That's the biggest part. That's the biggest storyline in this division.
No, I get that, but I meant like you're good headlines. Like you could have did better for the new owner. Who's this? Like there was some wordplay in there. You didn't put as much effort into that one as the other.
If I remember correctly, I did this at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So
stop doing that. Like just be a normal person, man. Like you could have been like no Chargers no or go Chargers go. This is like your least creative one.
Again,
your least creative
at this point it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So okay.
Yeah, well you're fucked up. But anyway, no, these are terrible headlines. These are not playful. These aren't creative. You just said fuck the West.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We back, man. We are back. I am the unforgettable one himself, Mr. Brett Carroll. Charles is always daydreaming. We're two guys like BSN at work, but the dream is almost over. Football is back a week from today, as of this recording. We'll be kicking off in the 2023 season, and we are excited. I'm super amped. I want to speak for everybody else. I'm super amped. Well, let's get into it. You know how we do. That's our NFL season preview right here on the Dope blog, and we're going to get into this.
Oh, yeah. We are here, finally. There's like 3 other pods we've been putting off because we keep running into scheduling conflicts.
Yeah,
now we're here talking about football, which just means me and Brett felt like fucking screaming at each other
yes.
with all the passion in the world, because this dude is going to figure out a way to piss me off in this. I just know he has some type of sly BS. Because as you guys know, if you've been following us this whole time, you loyal dope heads, you know that Brett likes to pretend that I bring things up and that I'm the reason we're talking about it. And this dude, every single August I've known him, randomly brings up Big Ben just to shit on Eli Manning. Or he'll bring up Eli Manning just to praise Big Ben. It is clockwork. It is. I'm not going to allow him to do it. So when you see it working, I just want everybody in there.
See, here's the funny thing, Charles. You have no proof of this because those are allegedly what you're talking about.
You know, my proof is you didn't even deny it. You said, you can't prove it.
You have no proof of that because we've never talked about that on the pod. So I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, we're talking about the AFC East right now. These are the 4 storylines. What I want to do is I'm going to start off with the Dolphins for one reason only. I have had several people come up to me since last football season and say, yo, man, I love the Dope blog. I love what you're doing. I watch every episode. But, bro, show some love to the Dolphins, man. We want to hear more about the Dolphins. And so this is for y'all. So, again, whether you're a Dolphins fan, whether you're any fan of any team, if you want us to talk about them more, please let us know. Don't threaten us with a good time by watching more football. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine. I got multiple TVs in this apartment. If I got to put my Steelers on one TV and another game on another TV, I will do it. Normally what I do is I just put Red Zone on one TV and the Steelers on another TV so I can pay attention to my team and pay attention to my fantasy league. But if I got to start keying in on more teams and more games so I can get more in-depth conversations about them, I will do that. So shout out to Zell, shout out to AB, shout out to a couple others that all came to me ironically and were like, yo, man, talk about the Dolphins. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to talk about the Dolphins. We have several listeners who are Dolphins fans that want us to go more in depth with the Dolphins. So that's what I'll do. I'll start with the Dolphins. You're not going to like what I got to say, though, because I just don't see how they make the playoffs this year. Not because they're not a good team. Let me make that very clear. Not because they're not a good team. It's simply because not everybody can make the playoffs in the AFC. The AFC is loaded. And
real quick, I'm sorry, I was looking up my boy's so I get his real name or the name he uses for his YouTube stuff. But my boy Larry, who I've been on his podcast before called Logic with Larry, he's mostly politics and stuff, but he started his own Dolphins YouTube show essentially, and he's killing it. So I think it's called the Fincast or the Fin Addict. I literally just froze up and erased it. But shout out to my boy Larry. I will try to figure out a link or to get him on here because we were talking about that before all of our lives got more complicated. But he would be the guy I would bring on with Brett to talk about the Dolphins because he is a Dolphins fan.
That's fine. I mean, Jersey has a lot of them. There's Dolphins bars in a couple different cities in New Jersey. So I'm not surprised that a lot of fans have come up to us like, yo, man, talk about the Fins. So we're going to do that.
Yeah, man. And you know what's funny? We didn't last year just because, at least for me, I wasn't watching the games. And as Brett knows, like, I'll watch some highlights, but if we really are going to talk a big segment on the pod or an entire pod about something, I want to at least be able to watch like at least the majority of a game, right? So how much am I going to talk about the Dolphins when I'm a casual Dolphins viewer that maybe I see them when they play the Jets or if they have a primetime game? And I'm not busy with my wife or kid, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. But off rip, Tua is just polarizing. Like if you love him, you're an idiot. If you hate him, you're just a hater. And the truth is obviously somewhere in the middle because I feel like he gets hate that it's just like wow, and then you get some praise that you're just kind of like okay. Well, either way, I feel like the roster around him is underrated at times, at least in the spots that me and Brett have talked about. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Their wide receiver core got most of the press last year. They had also a mixed bag or a running back by committee approach, which was kind of working. But the defense, the secondary, is like beast, isn't it? Like, or am I? Because every offseason,
the defense is they're a good team. Like they're just flat out a good team. When Tua is healthy, they were really good. And for me, I question that because at the end of the day, he's a smaller quarterback, and you're going to get hit. Like I understand the quarterbacks are protected, but you're still going to get hit. And it's one of those things like when you, especially unfortunately, when you have concussions, it's one of those injuries where your brain is literally more susceptible to him. So every time he hits the ground, that's gonna be like a, oh my God, I hope he's okay type of moment. So that's my biggest issue with them is just the health of Tua because he proved it. I'm gonna give him his credit. He proved when he was on the field last year, their offense was dynamic and their team was dynamic. So the only reason why I just don't believe in them in terms of a Super Bowl contender or even a playoff contender is because look, I mean, you got Buffalo and the Jets in your own division. That's one. I think so. There's two teams I think are better in your own division. Then you have the entire AFC North, which we'll get into. Then obviously you still have the Chiefs and the Chargers. You still have the Jaguars. I don't think anybody else in the South is a real threat, but still, like there's a good 10 teams that could make the playoffs, but only 7 get in. You know what I mean? So there's going to be teams that are going to get left at the carpet when they deserve to be in the playoffs. But again, only 7 can get in. And I just don't see how the Dolphins are the team that navigates that water better than others.
If the Dolphins get in, it's simple. Then the Dolphins and obviously either the Jets and or Buffalo are 2 of the wild card spots. That's it. You know what I mean? Like that means the Ravens or another North team aren't going to have that wild card spot, and the entire North, who I feel like if we're going to talk, and this is from an NFC fan, so you know, like not really a bias here. The North, the Bengals, the Steelers, the Ravens, and not necessarily in that order, as you'll see later. All 3 could make the playoffs. The Browns too. I'm not going to hate on the Browns. I just don't feel like the Browns are going to. And also fuck Deshaun Watson. And in the East, you have Buffalo. Everyone's saying Buffalo's falling on hard times. I believe it when I see it because they've been defending.
That's how I feel too, man. Until I see it, I'm not going to write them.
Where is this demise coming from? Because they lost to the champs in the playoffs. Like I don't understand where this demise is coming from. They still have the division. Sure, the Jets, bro, their defense was good last year. The people saying their defense is overrated because they were playing bad teams. So you're a good defense supposed to shut down bad teams, period. Like that's what the Jets were doing. All they needed was competent quarterback play last year, and they didn't get it. And now they have Aaron Rodgers, who is arguably top 5 all time. I think arguably top 10 all time if you don't think he's in the top 5. So obviously they're a threat. But the Dolphins were right there last year. It was a mixture of injuries and bad luck. So if you're going to say those injuries and bad luck continue, sure, they might miss the playoffs. But if everything goes right for them, the three
Well,
of the playoff
but
three
see,
playoff teams could come out of the East, just like three playoff teams came out of the NFC East last year. I feel like everybody is over the Patriots, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady era. That aura is gone now.
well, I mean, the Patriots aren't even in this conversation.
No, but that's what I'm bringing up because this is the first year. Let's be serious. This is the first real year, at least since me and you have known each other, that realistically we have not brought up the Patriots in this conversation.
Yeah,
like this is the first time it feels like it's unrealistic for us to talk about the Patriots making the playoffs in this version of the AFC. The AFC is deep, man. We're talking about the East having three playoff teams when the North could have three playoff teams. When who knows what the fuck's going to happen in the West, but they could have three playoff teams. Because last year we all thought the Raiders.
I mean, honestly, the only division that anybody even thinks there's no way they're going to get even get to is the South.
Yeah, and the South has the Jags and the Titans, and that's if we don't have one of these ridiculous surprise teams. Like let's be real, man. The Texans aren't supposed to be good, but that's exactly the type of team everyone sleeps on. Then they fuck around, and we're looking at them, and they have 8 wins.
Right. No, again, my thing is for the Dolphins, it's not Dolphins hate. It's just more like I just don't see, because to me, it's the schedule. Like, I'm big on schedule. I'm big on who you play. The East, the AFC East plays the AFC West, right? So you got to face all those teams. You still got to face your division. So it's just the odds are you're gonna have more losses, even if it's just one more loss, than some of the other teams in your conference, just because your schedule is that much harder. I don't know who they play in the NFC. I didn't look that up, but if it's the NFC East, for example, like again, there you go. That's the Eagles, that's the Cowboys, that's the Giants, that's the Commanders. Like those aren't pushover teams either. So I just don't know where the wins. I don't know where the easy wins are coming from, where I can definitely say, yeah, they will make the playoffs. Where Buffalo and the Jets, I'm like, well, they're so good. They should be just about anybody on their schedule, no matter who it is. The Dolphins is more like, no, they're really good, but like, it's not like they can't be beat.
Yeah.
And that's on top of, I don't know how healthy Tua is going to be. That's on top of the running back situation. That's on top of, I don't know how good the offensive line is going to be because they just lost their best offensive lineman to injury. So already they're off to a bad start in terms of the injury bug. Again, the defense is going to be nasty. We know that. Tua, when healthy, is going to play well. We know that. It's hard, man. There's just not enough spaces in the AFC. And so I wanted to talk about the tuna fish first. The tuna fish. Because then I'm showing them love. I just don't see it this year. Now, if you're telling me, Buffalo really is going to fall off and.
Well, here's the thing about Buffalo falling off. I understand that some people just think they peaked, right? But that doesn't mean they're going to fall off. That just means they're not as serious of contenders for the Super Bowl as we once thought, which isn't the same as winning the division.
Right.
I think it's more interesting that the way Aaron Rodgers has kind of been like, pump the brakes, man. We might be off to a slow start. And if they do have a slow start and say, like, because as many Packers teams have had in the past, and just start 1-4, that's a hole. Even though they might end up, being 7-4 a couple weeks later, 1-4 is still a hole to crawl out of. So who's to say that the fish don't win the first 4 games and they're fighting to just stay above?
That's true too. We'll never know, and that's why the NFL is so great, because you really do got to play it out. Let's talk about Buffalo, because I'm with you. I don't understand.
I don't know where it's coming, because Stephon Diggs is still there, right?
Yeah, I get it. There's drama that he might not want to be there, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they're still a really good football team. I understand they lost some pieces on the defense. I understand they lost some pieces on the offensive line. But here's what really kills me, right? They drafted Dalton Kincaid. And going into the draft, everybody was raving about Dalton Kincaid. Everybody was raving like, oh, he's the next superstar tight end in the league. in what is supposed to be a historically great tight end class, he was the one guy that everybody said, well, yeah, he's the best one. And so you would think whoever got him, they would say, oh, yeah, that's a big upgrade. The Buffalo drafted him, and people were acting like that was the worst pick in the draft, mostly because they think they needed a wide receiver more. But I'm like, but if this guy is going to be the next great receiving tight end, that is a wide receiver. Like, what are we talking about? The way tight ends are used nowadays, if you have one of those guys, that's the same thing as having a wide receiver. And not to mention, what else were they supposed to do? The top four receivers were taken off the board before they even got a chance to draft somebody. So instead of reaching for another receiver, they took the best offensive weapon available, which was Dalton Kincaid. I thought that was a great pick. Not to mention, they already said we're going to play 2 tight end sets, which is going to help their offensive line, which is going to help them run the ball. So there's going to be more balance on offense. Because that's another problem we've had with Buffalo. They're too imbalanced. Josh Allen has to do everything. So even if you don't think Dalton Kincaid is a good blocking tight end, he's still better than the slot receiver they would have drafted anyway at blocking. So I don't understand this notion that, oh, because they didn't draft a wide receiver, they're cooked. Like, it doesn't make sense. It just does. They were a good team last year and they didn't have an extra wide receiver. They got another offensive weapon in a tight end. So that's still helping their football team out, but now we feel like they're cooked. Like I don't get it.
I feel like it's the same thing that happens to any team that like the Donovan McNabb Eagles, right? They were never a contender. They were always like, oh well, they're real, but to a certain point. Or the Cardinals with Kurt Warner or something like that, right? Like, oh, they're done. Done. You mean done contending? Because I don't know if they're done winning the division. Because that means if all you got to do is win the division, and it's a whole different season at the end of the season. So I'm with you. I feel like it is what it is because I feel like it's more wishful thinking in a very deep AFC that the team with Josh Allen of all teams is going to fall off.
That's what I'm saying. Is he not a top 5 quarterback anymore? Like, what did I miss?
Bro. There's how for every good quarterback, there's truthers out there that like actually, if you look at these stats, he's not that good at da da da. And he's a different type of good than an Aaron Rodgers or a Joe Burrow or even a Trevor Lawrence. Like they're all these guys are different types of good. You know what I mean? Like just like Lamar Jackson is fucking more than good, but it's weird to try to compare him to a Joe Burrow. Right. You might be better off comparing him to a Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Just like comparing my shitty quarterback and your shitty quarterback. Like they're different levels of shitty. You know what I mean? Like there's different expectations here.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird to me. I just don't think that until somebody knocks Buffalo off, I'm not gonna pick them to be knocked off.
I'm more annoyed that you framed all these from the quarterback, because like besides bad times with Buffalo, you went with the alliteration, but just have a new Pyron to Tua, Return of the Mac, clever. But those are all the quarterbacks, right? When I actually feel like the strength of the AFC East isn't the quarterback play; it's ironically the defenses. Like the defense.
Well, to be fair, that's another reason why people are saying Buffalo fell off because they lost some of their best pieces on defense and they lost their defensive coordinator. My thing with that is Sean McDermott's a defensive guy, so I trust whoever he picks as defensive coordinator. They did replace some of their talent on the defense. So I think the defense will be fine, even if it's not as good as it was the last 2 years. So I get that aspect of it.
Yeah, you could say the defense has fallen off, but last time I checked, the most memorable game of this era, it was the Bills and the Chiefs going head to head.
Right, and they couldn't stop.
And there was no defense to be seen.
Right, they couldn't stop anybody. So, but that's another reason why I put the quarterback. So as we all know, it comes down to the quarterback play. If your quarterback plays well, then it. So the Jets
I think you subconsciously rank the quarterbacks how you actually feel how they're ranked in the division.
Probably.
Yeah. Like because that's when I look at this, because I'm like, hey, listen, if you want to put Aaron Rodgers first, he's had the career. You know what I mean? But like,
look, Aaron Rodgers, aka the great good.
I'm taking Josh Allen over him, and it's more because of age, yes, and I'm not ashamed to say that, and in the future. But I feel like Josh Allen is better than Aaron Rodgers at this point in time. But with that said, If Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers,
listen, he's gonna come out with his great Gazoo helmet, and he's gonna bring in that space magic. That's what he's gonna do. I think the Jets are gonna be fine. Again, the Jets are one of those weird teams. Like they could be good and miss the playoffs. Like you said, if they start out slow, like it's the AFC is weird. It's one of those things where you're gonna have to be either really hot towards the end of the year, or you're gonna have to be really hot at the beginning of the year and be able to tread water later. Like there's gonna be games where you might see 10 teams with like 10 wins, bro. Like, and it's just a matter of tiebreakers. So I don't know. The Patriots, there's no point even talking about the Patriots. They're all in on Mac Jones. They cut all their other quarterbacks. I think they brought back Bailey Zappi yesterday. Good for them. This is probably a make or break year for Mac Jones. Year 3, they're gonna see what he can be. They got him an offense coordinator finally, and Bill O'Brien. And say what you want about Bill O'Brien, he's at least a decent offense coordinator. We'll see what this is going to be an interesting year for Mac Jones. He's going to have to prove that he can be that guy. And I get it. It is not easy replacing the GOAT. I mean, that's a position I don't wish on anybody. That's a very hard position. When you have a Hall of Fame quarterback, the next guy up, you know what I mean? Like that's hard.
Well, that's the thing. He wasn't the next guy up. They did have Cam Newton, who was playing decent.
But but let's be real. Nobody thought Cam Newton was going to be their franchise quarterback.
Well, I think that was the problem. I think they moved on from Cam Newton way too soon.
True. That's true too.
But let's be real. Bill Belichick has done a shit job as a GM because he realized, oh wait, I can't find Tom Brady every year in the draft. And I feel like it's a bit of both. You know what I mean? Like give the Bucs their props. They did a great job of building a team around Tom Brady, having a decent team already, but building around him once he got there. And Tom wanted to prove it wasn't all Bill, but I think Tom proved it's not all him either. You know what I mean? Like because it worked that one year. The next year, even though Tom was a little bit less, those years when he was a Pat and it was a little bit less, the Pats defense was there to pick up all the pieces and make him still look like Tom Brady. So I feel like their legacies will forever be intertwined in a good way. I mean, that as a compliment to both men. But Bill has definitely struggled more, obviously, since Tom's left. And let's be real, he was never good at drafting quarterbacks. He lucked out with Tom Brady.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Well, I shouldn't say he was never good. He did draft Jimmy G. So, you know what I mean? I guess two in 20 years ain't that bad of a record compared to a lot of other GMs. But got rid of Jimmy. And the funny part is he didn't want to get rid of Jimmy G. He wanted to move on from Tom back then. So there's a real timeline where Tom's second dynasty wasn't with the Patriots, which is just crazy to think about. There's a timeline out there where he might have 3 rings somewhere else. And this is a whole different type of conversation.
Or he doesn't have those other 3 rings at all.
I don't know, man. Him winning with the Bucs kind of showed like if he went to another team, he could win.
But that Bucs team was really good, though. Like, I think we, and I hate to say this because I love Jameis, but like, I think most people, when you look back on it, you realize, wow, Jameis really was the reason. He really did hold them back. 30 turnovers is insane.
Well, it also really shows you how important eyesight is because he got his eyes fixed and he was throwing different, which is just crazy. You know what I mean? Like
I mean, was he really? I mean, he wasn't throwing as many interceptions, but he doesn't have a job. Is he on a roster right now? Is he still on the Saints?
I thought he was still on the Saints. Isn't he the backup on the Saints?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Not a starter anymore. So it is.
Well, he's not going to be. Man, Jameis is one of the most interesting quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah,
he really is.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Anyway,
all right, let's go to your division.
Fuck. I was hoping it was later.
I'll let you pick. What do you want to do first? Do you want to talk your Giants first?
Let me just get it out the way. So when it comes to the Giants, it is annoying for me as a fan because, as you know, I'm a diehard fan. I'm very passionate about my Giants, but at the same time, I feel like I'm a lot more realistic at times than at least what's on sports radio around here with us. So yeah, thank you, Brett. Because you're like, oh yeah, compared to those guys, you're definitely more realistic. Because as you know, me and Brett both have friends that listen to sports radio, So we have to a lot of times argue for the lowest common denominator of our fandom because some asshole on the radio said something, and now all the other fans are yelling at us because some one fan said something. And to allude more to what I mean, Giants fans are hype. Around here, we are hype for the season. We are excited.
As you should be.
Daboll, we're excited for what Daboll's building. There's, as you guys know, there's been a half and half contingent among Giants fans in regards to Daniel Jones's career. A lot of people believe he's it since we drafted him. Others like me, I'm just happy the improvements I saw last year. I still want to see improvements this year. I think he's overpaid, but I hope hopefully he plays to the contract, right? That's all I can hope for. He took a step last year when Barkley got healthy. Hope he takes the next step, throws for 4,000 yards this year and a couple more passing touchdowns, and then boom. Okay, cool. I got a starting quarterback. With that said, we are the team on the bubble of the playoffs because every year you play the game. Okay, who's getting in? If there's a new team getting in, that means an old team's not getting left out. Spoilers for later in this: I don't have the Vikings making the playoffs this year. But with that said, you could easily not have the Giants making the playoffs this year. I feel like the Cowboys are in the same boat. Like there's a path where they're definitely in the playoffs. There's a path where they're definitely not in the playoffs. But in regards to the Giants specifically, I'm excited for the defense. Hopefully Saquon can stay healthy again. And it's really, really, if DJ can just do what he did last year, because as you pointed out last year, he just had some drives where he moved the ball down the field and scored. It looked good. It wasn't the prettiest, but it looked good. It was moving. It didn't really ever stall. He would extend plays with his feet. He was turning the ball over less, throwing it to nobody, which is still a problem. But I feel like they're more confident about the wide receivers this year than they were last year. We added Hyatt in the draft, which everyone seems to be a little bit high on. The fantasy predictions for him, I feel, are so off because I don't know if you noticed, but ESPN had him projected to get 30 points this year in fantasy, which maybe he doesn't play that much. Maybe he doesn't get 30 points in the season. But
they only have him having 30 points all year.
You know how they had the projected points? They gave him 30. That's why in one of the leagues I'm in, I got him in like the last round because I was like, wow. I was like, you guys have no respect.
I guess I can see like they think that he's just gonna be a boomer bust type of guy. Like if he gets points, it's gonna be on deep balls, so he might get a touchdown or two and stuff like that. I can see that. I
can see it, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, but like
30 seems very low though.
Yeah, 30's like, okay, that means like he's catching like 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that means he's getting like single digits a game.
Or just 3 catches like all year. You know what I mean? But anyway, but so, stuff like that. And we brought in Waller from the Raiders, who if him and Barkley stay healthy, there's no excuses for Daniel Jones. I want to say that. There's zero excuses offensively for Daniel Jones if health remains. The defense, I feel like, is getting slept on more. I feel like we still need help in the secondary at corner position. But with that being said, we brought in Isaiah Simmons, who is a bust to many, but I'm excited. I wanted to draft him. And for a 7th round pick, I'll fucking take 100 out of 100 times. We just got another linebacker from the Bills. So we filled in a couple holes in one of our weakest positions since Antonio Pierce. I feel like we can make the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we can make the playoffs. Do we win a playoff game? That depends. But I feel like we can make the playoffs. I feel like we can maintain and build off of last year. And if we don't, there's going to be more questions than answers. But I really have faith in Daboll. And if there's a sophomore slump and we're worse than we thought, okay, recalibrate. And I still feel like, unless it's Joe Judge level bad, which I can't see it happening, Daboll's here next year. So, like, I just feel like we have a lot to be excited for. With that said, I don't get some of these fans. Like, I play devil's advocate with my friends because some fan called up saying the Eagles could have been better with Daniel Jones last year. And they're like, oh, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And I played devil's advocate. And I was like, it's not that ridiculous because their numbers aren't that different. Jalen Hurts' numbers are better, but they're both through for the 3,000 in the 3,000 yard range. As everyone knows, I'm actually a Jalen Hurts fan, at least from college. With that said, Daniel Jones could throw farther than him. Like the argument that if he had a better arm, throwing Daniel Jones would have more yards throwing to Devonta Smith and those wide receivers. I don't feel like it's that big of a stretch, but at the same time, it's a fucking stupid comparison to make in the first place. So, but that's what rivals do at the end, as you know. At the end of the day, we're just going to talk shit. So I feel like the Eagles are the most complete team still in the NFC, not just the East, in the NFC. I feel like it's their conference to lose because until they show weakness at, I don't know, any position on the roster, who the fuck is better as a team? Jalen Hurts is a perfect quarterback for them. I don't understand the people that think he's not. He doesn't have the best arm. Okay, he's not throwing Hail Marys. Last time I checked, last time that made a fucking difference was the Hail Mary in the Super Bowl, which is okay, but you're in the Super Bowl. So figure it out to play better next time, which is actually hard for Jalen Hurts to do because his numbers in the Super Bowl were ridiculous. Other than that, I really feel like it's the Eagles' division to lose. I feel like it's going to be the Giants and the Cowboys fighting for that wild card spot. And I feel like the Commanders are a dark horse wild card team. And if they make the playoffs and we don't, I'm not going to be like, I can't believe this happened. Because every year when people sleep on the Commanders and we write them off like they're going to be a 1-win team, is usually their better seasons. Better for them, but better seasons. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I like to hear what you got to say because I'm a Giants fan. I hate these people. I really hate that I have to give the Eagles props because as an organization, and I'm being serious, as an organization, at least in our immediate local area, so like the northeast corridor of the United States, right? From Boston down to DC. Besides the Pats, they're the fucking gold standard of how football teams are going to be run because they've been good. Like, period. Not bad. They've had maybe one bad season, but they've been a good to great football team. It's 2023. They've been good since before Eli Manning was a Giant.
That's a fact.
Like, I don't know what else y'all want me to say. Like some people are getting really mad, especially Cowboys fans, when I say that out loud. I'm like, yo, you wish your team was ran like the Eagles, because I don't take that as an insult. Like, the Eagles have been run very well. Laurie has done a very good job at being visible when he needs to be and being invisible other times. Maybe Eagles fans feel differently because they pay more attention to that shitty ass team than I do. But like, I don't understand how some people look at this our division, especially now that the actual worst owner's gone, and feel like, oh yeah, these teams are just going to suck forever. We can't even let anybody run this division consistently. Like, as good as the Eagles have been, they didn't dominate outside of the McNabb era. Because I want to give McNabb his props. That dude's underrated at this point in NFL history. But do you feel like this isn't the possible standings? Like, I feel like maybe switch the Giants and the Cowboys, but the Eagles are.
Here's the ironic part. When I did this, I wasn't. Maybe I was subconsciously. I wasn't putting them in order in terms of where I thought they were ranked. I just put the storyline from each team. So, but
further proof that I may be the writer out of the two of us, but he's better at headlines than I am, because I'm looking at all these. I'm like, I wouldn't have thought of these stupid fucking word plays that I like. Like I'm really annoyed. It's like all these, besides new owner who it is, literally you're 7 for 8 at this moment in
it is new owner headlines. That's the biggest part. That's the biggest storyline in this division.
No, I get that, but I meant like your good headlines. Like, you could have did better for the new owner who's this. Like, there was some wordplay in there. You didn't put as much effort into that one.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I did this at like 1:00 in the morning. So
stop doing that. Like, just be a normal person, man.
Well, at the time, we might have been doing it the next morning. So I was like, all right, I want to have it done.
So you did this last night?
No, I made this a couple of days ago, but I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I was like, so you did it last night.
But at the time, it was one of those things where like we weren't sure if we were going to do it the next day or not. I was like, so let me have it done just in case. I don't want him to call me and be like, hey, I'm free today. I'm like, okay. So that's how that works. Here's the thing about this. In terms of the Giants, I totally agree with you. As you know, I've been the main one pointing out this division had the easiest schedule in all of football last year. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do this year when they all have a better schedule. That's part of it. Like that, like people don't understand in football, that is a huge part of it. Who you play matters.
100%. And my bad, you reminded me. I wanted to give you that props because last year, and I don't want to cut you off with the last division when you were talking about the Dolphins, but one of the most consistent things Brett has said every offseason when we've done these on the record, besides just saying it to me, because it's one of the like it's damn near his sport religion at this point. He preaches how important that schedule is. And mind you, more than a handful of times, he, just to prove his point, has shown me said schedule and said, tell me where I'm lying. Because last year, when I said, bro, fuck off, we're not making the playoffs. We're going to be having the first pick. Just tell me who the good quarterbacks are, because that's what we're going to be picking. Yada, yada, yada. Brett was the first and one of the only people to look at the schedule and go, dog, you get 10 wins. Like, if just being a competent football team, you could get 10 wins.
I said there's 12 wins on the schedule. Like, I pointed, I was like, there's 12 wins on the schedule.
And I cursed him out because I was just like, how dare you play with my emotions?
He thought I was just trolling. I'm like, bro, we did it together. I said, bro, you're telling me you can't beat this team? You're telling me you can't beat that?
And you did it with the Steelers. That's why I honestly, I don't think the Steelers are a playoff team this year, but seeing where they finished and thus what their schedule might be, because I'm vaguely looking at where they finished and guessing the divisional, layouts, right? And I'm like, oh shit. But if they're just an 8-8 team, yeah, they can still make the playoffs. Because if their defense just lives up to, if TJ Watt stays healthy and they live up to expectations, their schedule, yada, yada, yada. So that's just again, looking ahead. But that's how I feel with the Giants and the Cowboys. But the opposite now. Because I'm like, if it's a little bit harder, our divisional games against each other are more important than the other two, in my opinion. Because I feel like we have a chance, both us and the Cowboys, and I guess all three of us, have a chance of getting beat twice by the Eagles. We also have a chance of splitting. Us beating the Eagles twice, if we do that, fucking Kaloo. But let's be real. The realistic hope for everybody not named the Eagles in the division is split with the Eagles and hopefully beat the other two twice.
So this is in terms of the Giants, I'm completely with you. We'll see. It really just depends on how well they stay healthy, how well Daniel Jones takes that next step in his development. And obviously we won't know that until the games are played. The Cowboys are interesting. Spoiler alert. I struggled doing my Super Bowl prediction, picking the NFC winner. And I was going to pick the Cowboys at one point, simply for this reason alone. History of the NFL tells us one of the teams that go to the Super Bowl will have a hangover, right? I'm not picking the Chiefs because the Chiefs are in that hunt every single year. So until they lay on their face, I'm not going to pick them. So common sense said, well, that means it has to be the Eagles. So I was like, okay, so why don't we knock off the Eagles? The 49ers, I'm not a big fan of how they're doing things, and I'll get back to them when we get to that division. So I was like, okay, not the 49ers, but I thought about it. So who's the third best team in the NFC? And I was like, it might be the Cowboys. Like, their roster is that good. So I said, okay, maybe this is the year that the Cowboys mess around and get into the Super Bowl. But then the Jerry Jones thing, Jerry Jones has to Jerry Jones. Trading for Trey Lance and then parading the fact that he didn't tell anybody about it. Parading the fact that, I would have drafted Jalen Hurts, which is a complete lie because they could have drafted him twice and they didn't. Basically, once again, doing everything in his power to tell us he does not like or believe in Dak Prescott, basically. I was like, yeah, I can't pick the Cowboys because at the end of the day, the Cowboys are always going to get in their own way. They just are. They just are. They're the opposite of the Steelers. The Steelers usually have all this stuff against them and they just overcome it. The Cowboys are the opposite. They have all this stuff going for them and they just find ways to stumble on their face. So, spoiler, I went with the Eagles because, again, at that point, I said, well, you know what? The Eagles are just that good. Maybe they don't have that Super Bowl hangover. I have this Eagles in the Super Bowl again. But I really was going to pick the Cowboys at first until all this stuff happened. Then I was like, yeah, I just can't. I'm not going to put myself on that limb for the Cowboys. I did that with the Vikings last year, and I fell flat on my face. I said, never again. And so that's how I feel about the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Eagles are just too damn good to not play well unless obviously injuries are always part of it. So I think they're going to be great. Dallas, I have them making the playoffs only because, again, the NFC is weird where there's not that many good teams. There's just not. Somebody has to win the North. I'm not confident on any of those teams in the North. Somebody's got to win the South. I'm not confident about any of those teams in the South.
But the North could have more than one playoff team in it too.
No, they could. They could absolutely. It's just
I feel like the Northeast and the West have chances of having more than one playoff team.
Of course, yes, I agree with that. But I guess my point is there's no team in the NFC that I think is better than the Cowboys besides the Eagles and the Niners. Like, if I'm looking at that third team, I feel like it should be the Cowboys. Even if they don't win the division, I feel like they should be that.
Micah Parsons is a beast. I'm really not trying to take away from Micah Parsons. It's what I'm about to say. Other than that, that defense is a little overrated. What's his face? The cornerback, the one with the picks. Oh my God.
Trayvon Diggs.
Thank you. He's good. He is not the hype that so many people think he is because he gets said picks. He isn't a Darrelle Revis. He is such a boomer bust corner that either he gets the pick or he gets burned.
No, that's it. I agree with that, but I do think their defense overall is pretty good. And
the defense is good, but that's my point. It's not on the level in my head, because again, I'm about to say two other rivals, so it's not like I'm really parsing, my Cowboys hate here. It's the Eagles and the Niners, right? I feel like both of those are better defenses. So if they're the third best defense, that's their best chance of making the playoffs, obviously, because I feel like Dak.
But their offense is good too, though. Like, even last year, it's just they got to cut down on the turnovers. You know what I mean? Like, their offense scores points. It's
well, they should. That's the problem, man. It's not like they don't have weapons. Like no one said, like the Cowboys were never starved for weapons. It's always an execution thing. They're always paper champions. They had
but that's my point. It's when I look at their roster, I'm sitting there saying they probably got the third best roster in the conference. So I gotta believe they're gonna make the playoffs. And credit to the Cowboys, they've made the playoffs each of the last like 4 or 5 years. I think it's just winning in the playoffs. So I have the Cowboys making the playoffs just off of, like, dang, like, who's better? Who else is better than you? There's only 2 teams on paper that are better than them. And the Commanders, I'm with you. At first, I thought the Commanders were going to stink. I really thought the Commanders were going to be in the Caleb Williams conversation. But the more I thought about it, they do have a new owner. They do have a new offense coordinator who's trying to change the culture in Eric Bieniemy. I do think Ron Rivera gets a bad rep. I think he's a really good coach. Does he do some weird things sometimes in the way he approaches stuff? Yeah, but I think he's a pretty good coach. He did win Coach of the Year twice. You know what I mean? Like, so let's not poo-poo that. Sam Howell's a lot better than people give him credit for. They got weapons too. They have weapons, and their defense, when healthy, is pretty good. So the Commanders are one of those weird teams. They can mess around and make the playoffs. I think a lot of people think of them as the 4th best team, and I probably would as well. As of right now, I got to put them 4, but I wouldn't be surprised if they made the playoffs. Like, not at all. I would not be surprised if they made the playoffs. They're a weird team. Like, the Washington's really weird to me. I feel like they're like a boom or bust team. I think they're either going to be great this year or they're going to be horrible. I don't know. It really depends. I really think Snyder being out of that building, I think this lifts the air. You know what I mean? Like, I think this just.
I feel like the health of the franchise will be on display. I feel like they have the right pieces. They're a team that would have been better if they had the right quarterback. Let's be real. I mean, like the last couple of years, if they just had a quarterback, who knows what we're saying about them, because they had dudes from the XFL or the USFL, one of the ones, doing work for them. So
yeah, and Sam Howell's decent. So I think they're going to be a good team. Whether they make the playoffs or not, I don't know, but I think they're going to be good. Like, so that's just how I feel about the East. I really do think it's the Eagles' division to lose. I think the Cowboys should make the playoffs. But I also think let me say this about the Trey Lance thing too. Again, I liked the trade at first until Jerry Jones opened his mouth, because I thought it was a great idea. Dak's got 2 years left on his deal. You can sit Trey Lance for 2 years. He's a third-string quarterback. You're not expecting him to play. Dak, you got 2 years. You got 2 years to impress us, or else we're going to give this kid a chance. I thought that's pretty smart. until Jerry Jones opened his mouth and made this bigger than what it had to be. Now it's like, okay, so now you're basically telling me this is Dak's last year, and you're basically just putting it all on this year's Super Bowl or bust. And it's like, that's just stupid. That's just not.
It's amazing, ain't it? It's a Dak couldn't get the contract, even though at that point in time there was no reason not to give him a contract. Dak has a short leash, but Romo was the golden boy.
Yeah,
Dak's made the playoffs more times.
And he's won 2 playoff games. I don't think Tony Romo won.
Yeah, and those segregation pictures do not indicate how he feels about people deep down. He just liked Romo because reasons.
Right. Yeah.
And Dak, he doesn't like Dak because 4th round pick.
Yeah, Tony Romo was undrafted, so yeah. So I mean, it's
for somebody like me, mind you, as you know, the Cowboys are one of those teams that have a very large black fan base, like that, more so than a lot of other teams, and it's beautiful for me as a Giants fan to be able to send a picture of Sam, Jack, and Django every time with the Cowboys hat on. Fuck you, Cowboys fans. Let's move on. Let's keep it moving because I'm sick of talking about this trash.
All right, so now it's my team's division. I guess
oh my God, look at the beautiful. Your subconscious is just on point. This is exactly how I think the division is going to play out. No, I'm kidding. I think the Bengals might be better, but if the Ravens stay healthy, they're always a fucking problem. So, but you keep doing it. It's kind of beautiful.
Yeah,
it's good to see that you feel like me and my Giants and your Steelers are on the same level in our divisions.
Oh, I don't. That's so you'll see when I do my rankings. Yeah, for me. So here's the. I do think the Ravens are going to win the division. Only because the Bengals have this bad habit of starting out slow, but then getting extremely high. I think they won like 10 games in a row 2 years ago, and I think they won like 8 games in a row last year to make the playoffs. If Joe Burrow's not 100% healthy and they start off slow again, I got to be fair. If I'm going to keep talking about how good the AFC is and how it's hard for everybody to get in, I gotta put that same pressure on the Bengals. I'm saying, look, y'all can't start out slow again this year and think you're just going to catch fire and win the division. I don't think it's going to work like that. Mind you, strength of schedule. Their strength of schedule is way harder than everybody else's in the division. They got to play the Bills. Nobody else has to play the Bills. They have to play the Chiefs. Nobody else has to play the Chiefs. They have to play the who else do they got to play? I think they got to play the Vikings, which, again, say what you want about the Vikings. The Vikings are one of those teams, depending on when they play, where they play, how Kirk Cousins feels that day, that's not going to be a cakewalk either. So their schedule is really hard. And like I said, if they get off to a very slow start, they got to face the NFC West. They got to face the Jaguars. You know what I mean? So if they get off to a slow start, again, I don't see where there's wins at the end of the schedule for them to just get OD hot again and go supernova into the playoffs. So that's why I think this year they're not going to win the division. The Ravens, I'm going to give them credit. They've been ridiculously blasted with injuries the last couple of years, and they've still been competitive. Now you could say they could be injured again this year, and it's not like OBJ is a guy that is a picture perfect thing of health. So yeah, but I don't ever assume injuries. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't ever assume injuries like that. So if they're healthy, I think they should be good. I think they have a new dynamic on offense. I think everybody's feeling good in the building. Lamar got his money. You know what I mean? I just feel like everybody's in a good place going into the season. Zay Flowers was my favorite wide receiver in the draft. I was pissed that they got him. He reminds me of Antonio Brown. I hope he doesn't become Antonio Brown, especially if he's going to be a Raven his whole career. I hope he becomes Marquise Brown, if we're being honest.
Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, like I hope he becomes his cousin. But if he's half as good as I think he's going to be, that wide receiver room is good, man. You know what I mean? So I just don't. Now, again, this is the first time in a long time the Ravens defense does look a little suspect. But again, they're still the Ravens. I still think they're not going to be terrible on defense. So I think they're going to win the division. The Steelers, again, I feel weird about the Steelers because they're like everybody's sleeper team. So if you're everybody's sleeper team, are you a sleeper? You know what I mean? It's one of those weird
between the Steelers and the Jags. I'm like, guys, these aren't sleepers if everyone's saying it.
Yeah, like everybody's saying nobody's talking about the Steelers. I'm like, well, you're all saying it, so you're.
And the Lions. The Lions are the third team that everyone's like, everyone is talking about you guys. Like this isn't.
Right. Yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like, who no one's talking about, and it's going to be really annoying if we're good. It's like my team locally, we're talking about it. No one gives a shit about the Giants outside of how bad Daniel Jones is going to be. So like when it comes to the Steelers, I've heard people talk about Kenny Pickett. Again, I like to include that we're from an area where he's from. So I feel like we hear it more besides the Steelers being a national team, locally speaking, especially where I am in New Jersey compared to where Brett is. Like he's a person that's from here. So it's like, obviously I'm going to hear about him. But I hear more about the Steelers than I hear about the Browns or the Bengals. And just to be fair, I think the Bengals are a way better team. Mind you, I think Joe Burrow is like the best quarterback in the league, not named Patrick Mahomes. So, it's not really, I'm not really throwing shade.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. For me, the Bengals, I think the Bengals are the best team in the division. The only reason why I don't think I have them winning the division is because I think they will get off to a slow start. And I just think they're not going to be able to rekindle that magic, the 30 in a row of starting off slow and then just going supernova going into the rest of the season. I just don't think that's going to happen this year. So because of that, I don't have them winning division. The Steelers, again, schedule is super easy, man. Not super easy, but it's pretty easy. It's like, bro, you got to win these games. If the defense plays up to their potential, if Kenny Pickett, if the offense plays well, and the offense has been phenomenal during the preseason. Now, again, it's the preseason. I'm not sitting here saying, oh my God, we're going to be a top 5 offense. But it's one of those things, like, as a fan, it's damn if you do, damn if you don't, right? We had a lot of questions about the offense, the offensive line, Kenny Pickett, the offense coordinator, our ability to run the ball, all this other stuff. Do we have explosive plays? All these different questions. They've checked off every single box in the preseason. Every single box. They're 5 for 5. Kenny Pickett's numbers were literally some of the absolute best in the preseason. And again, I know it's preseason, but my thing is, if the offense struggled, everybody would say, "See, the Steelers are going to suck this year." So, you know what I mean? It's one of those weird things. Like, well, what are we supposed to do as fans? Are we not allowed to be happy that the offense that we had questions about is playing really well, like phenomenally well?
Bro, I get called a dick rider because I say Daniel Jones improved last year. Like, that's not an objective statement. Like, you especially know how much I was not on his bandwagon. I'm still kind of not. Like, as you guys can hear in my voice. Like, but I feel like it's so annoying because every year, at least you don't bother me during the preseason, because I told you years ago, unless your team's that bad and you want to see what your third string looks like because they might be your starters come week 2, that's different. If you feel any type of confidence in your team, watch it if you can. Don't go out of your way to watch the preseason, because it's more pointless than OTAs and the other shit before the draft that I make fun of. But at least there's something, there's a different type of entertainment. The preseason is just for people to talk shit, more so than the pre-draft stuff. Because, like, again, my team won a playoff game last year. I didn't expect to win that playoff game. We bring back most of the key pieces, and the ones we didn't bring back, we have now replaced on defense. I'm not supposed to be somewhat excited? Like, if any other position or any other, like, took the steps Daniel Jones took, why aren't you excited? I'm excited for Kenny Pickett. Me and you had a whole thing on here because you compared him to Joe Burrow or somebody else in just a passive way, and I said, don't do that to him. Compare, like, mind you, you took it as shit talk, like, compare him to my shitty quarterback. Temper those expectations, because I don't see him as an elite quarterback right now. With that being said, some of the people acting like this dude has just garbage. Like, you guys got Johnny Manziel out there, not even rookie Johnny Manziel, like Johnny Manziel right now. like, because you always joke with me, like, oh, you hate on the Steelers a lot, but you draft our players. I don't hate on the Steelers a lot. I think Steelers fans can be cunts. The actual Steelers players are what Steelers team has been bad in the last 20 years? Like I'm waiting for it. Y'all are like the Yankees. Just can you hurry up and suck, just so we can say that you suck for once? Because George Pickens is getting compared wrongfully to Justin Jefferson. I don't think he's on that level yet, because if he blows us away this year, you know what I mean? Good for you, kid. But Justin Jefferson, I feel, is the best wide receiver in the sport right now.
And I agree, and I think that was blown out of proportion. Like what he was saying is George Pickens has more talent, which is true.
Listen, man, it's one of those Megatron. You know what I mean? Like listen, there's people that like thoroughly believe Megatron shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, right? But it's like he's not a Hall of Famer. This motherfucker, look at his numbers, and there's ways of going about it. Like you could do that, but when you compare, this is something I really, this is a real conversation I had. This is off the dome. This is why it's fresh. It's like if you just immediately compare Megatron to like Evans from the Bucks, you just sound like a fucking hater. You sound ridiculous. Even though if you look at Evans' stats, dude's putting up work for a career. Dude, as you know, I don't switch and start hating on player A. I just go, wow, I didn't realize player B was this good.
Right, but here's the context, right? Here's the context. Justin Jefferson, I think, was like a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, right? Justin Jefferson on that loaded LSU Tigers team, I think was the 3rd receiver behind Jamar Chase and Terrence Marshall. Justin Jefferson is a wide receiver guru, right? He works his ass off. He's good at everything. But in terms of talent, he doesn't blow you away with the overall talent. Now, granted, let me say this: the boy is talented. Let me not say like he's a scrub that just has to work hard. No, dude's talented. But when you look at a Jamar Chase, when you look at a George Pickens, those are 5-star recruits. Their overall talent is undeniable. It's undeniable how good their talent is. George Pickens was a 5-star recruit. George Pickens is ridiculous in terms of size, strength, athleticism, hands, all that stuff. George Pickens is very raw as a receiver. So, no, he is not a better receiver than Justin Jefferson. In no world is that true. But if we're talking about just pure talent, yes, that's what Ryan Clark was saying. He has more talent than Justin Jefferson. Jefferson is just a wide receiver savant. And so you would pick Justin Jefferson over George Pickens. But George Pickens even admitted this. He was like, look, I still need to learn. I'm still learning how to play the position. You know what I mean? So he even knows that I got to be better at the fundamental. He said, I got to work on my fundamentals. I'm doing stuff. I get impatient. I take off my routes too early. So I mess up the timing, He's still learning how to be a receiver. And yet every day he makes catches that you say to yourself, like, how the hell did he make that? So that's what I'm saying. The talent is undeniable how good this guy is. Good.
Yeah, but I just feel like that's some homerism. Ryan Clark, shut up. You know what I mean? Like you're just being.
Hold on. What? Justin Jefferson went to LSU.
Because bro, Ryan Clark's a Steeler first.
Nah, he's both.
I know he's very proud of his roots. I'm not. As somebody who's a fan of his, because I've been paying attention to him both of his careers now, right? Like it's just like. It makes me feel super old that I can say both of his careers. I've seen the whole thing.
Yeah, but all right, so put it to you this way: if I said Aaron Rodgers is more talented than Tom Brady, nobody would bat an eye at that. But
no, that's a good point. That is a very good point. I was thinking more actually in the same field at least, because the comparison I was going to make just to be fair and show my bias is like that's some argument I would make for Odell over AB.
But that's true though.
Odell, no, but I'm agreeing. I just feel
like, but that's Odell was more talented. That's a perfect comparison.
No, but that's my point. It's the source. I'm not necessarily arguing what you just said. I'm saying it's a way you got to say it, right? Because I'm no fan of AB. So if I immediately offered like, well, he's more talented than he is, bro. No one cares what I got to say in this front. Of course, I'm going to say the Giant. Air quotes on Giant is more talented, yada yada yada. That's all I mean for Ryan Clark. He should have presented the argument better than he did, because all I see is a Steeler. And I don't like, you know what I mean? Like of course the Steelers.
But he presented it. But I think that's another thing too, where everybody just took that part of the clip and then listened to everything he was saying. He was saying, dude's got more talent. He's got to work. He's got to put the work in. That's what he was saying. He was saying because Justin Jefferson works harder than anybody in the league. So that's what he was saying.
Should have been rookie of the year too.
And right. And people, he should have been rookie of the year. Me and you were on this pod saying that.
Never letting that go. I'm never letting that go.
We will never let that go. And so people took that one sentence and ran with it when all he was saying is, hey, George, he's basically saying George Pickens has more talent than almost anybody you can name, but he's got to put the work in. That's all he was really trying to say. And people took that one sentence and ran with it. And then they got mad at him because he didn't back down from what he said. He was like, no, like, you're not listening to what I'm saying.
All right, we gotta keep it moving though, because
let's do it
before we get done with the North and all the other divisions. We got to speed this up. What do you like? I kind of already gave it away earlier.
Browns are gonna Brown. I just one
because they're not a bad team. Like I feel bad acting like they're not in this conversation for the division, because if everyone's healthy and Deshaun is 75% of what he was, they still are contending.
I mean, again, not everybody can make the playoffs, so that's one thing. Two, we haven't seen good Deshaun Watson in 3 years, guys. And I hate to say that because I was a huge Deshaun Watson as a football player, not the other stuff. But as a football player, I was a huge Deshaun Watson fan. And for people that don't know me, I love competition. I love saying that the AFC North might be the best division in football. I want all four of these quarterbacks to be great. I want to see great Deshaun Watson. It's much more fun to watch the Browns think they have a chance and then you beat them than for them to be ass, because they're used to being ass. You know what I mean? Like, that's not that fun. So I want to see Deshaun Watson play better. He hasn't looked good in the preseason. He didn't look good last year. Like, sometimes we forget time in sports is a big deal. When you haven't played at that level for a long time, that's hard to come back from. We forget he missed 2 years basically. And now he's trying to ramp it back up. So I don't know if they struggle early in the season, I don't know how that's now. I think they played the Bengals week 2. So that's gonna be a huge game. Fun fact, Joe Burrow's 1-3 against the Browns. For some reason, the Browns have his number. Like, he's beat the crap out of the Steelers, he beat the crap out of the Ravens, but for some reason they can't beat the Browns. So that's huge. That's gonna be a big game. Whoever wins that game has a really good chance of making the playoffs. I know it's week 2, but again, that's a division game. That's very important. Again, part of the reason why I'm saying I don't think the Bengals are going to win the division, because I have them losing that game. If Joe Burrow's not 100% and they already can't beat the Browns, if they lose that game, that's a big deal.
And to your point, the AFC North, more than other divisions, these early week 1, week 2, week 3 divisional games come back and bite the loser on the ass week 17.
Historically.
Oh my God. Like I know what's happened to the Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders in the past because of my own team, but I don't think it's happened as often. It seems like every year, Steelers and Browns specifically, if not Bengals and Ravens or Bengals and Steelers, the machination of the division. Every year, there's somebody like, yeah, but they lost to the Browns and they lost to the Bengals at home, not on the road, because it always like stings a little bit more. Remember that at home loss to the Browns,
dude? Week 1 against the Browns, I believe it was the last year of Big Ben and AB.
You guys got your ass kicked.
No, we tied them.
It was the tie.
Because we tied them, we missed the playoffs, and that was the last game AB and Ben played together. Like, I mean, that was the last season. That was the last
next year is when you guys lost in the playoffs, and it was the height of the what's that schmuck that's been moved around 3-4 times?
Yeah, Baker.
Yeah, that was the height of the Baker era. Let's be real. Like, it's so weird because Baker's also a good he's good enough to be a quarterback. When I say good quarterback, he's good enough to start in the NFL. It's just weird that it's like the Browns kicked him to the side so fast, like he was garbage. And he was one of those guys, me and you were both looking at him like, I mean, shit, if my team don't figure some shit out for the future, like, you know?
And honestly, a part of me does hope that Deshaun Watson sucks, because as you know, I was livid about that. I'm like, yo, this guy got you up to the playoffs for the first time in like 30 years and won a playoff game, and y'all are so done with him. Why? Like I get it. It's
and then you gave a guaranteed quarter bill to that dude. And it's annoying because listen, and then we got to move to the next division. But to put a bow on this for everyone that might, I don't know who would be listening to us that wouldn't be down for it, but everyone knows that me and Brett get on our Black Power Afrocentrism really fast, especially when it comes to social issues and when we feel like there's some systemic problems that aren't being addressed the correct way. With that said, we are let down as the Black men and Black fans we are by Deshaun Watson because we were champions that dude should have been the first overall pick and all this shit that it's football racism. Deshaun Watson, Christian McCaffrey were our shining poster children of football racism. Watson in the traditional sense, and then the reverse side for Christian McCaffrey because apparently he wasn't athletic enough to be a first overall pick. Fuck off. But anyway, and then hindsight's 2020. Now it's like, oh, these scouts saw the red flags, because that's serial behavior, bro. You didn't pick that up in Houston. You were doing that shit since high school, and your stupid little dry hand job routine that you got hooked on in middle school apparently just crossed over with your money, and that's your kink. Hey, let it be your kink, but sexual assault is still a crime, brother. And all that shit that they cover up in college and then the NFL covers up that we all know, that was the red flag. That's why he dropped. Like that's what, and mind you, even if that's not true, that's exactly what it looks like now. And fuck you for being the piece of shit predator that you were. So I hope you lose. I hope you suck. I hope you're trash. Not only do I hope Kenny Pickett throws it all over you, I hope it cuts to the corn-fed white folks from Ohio and Kentucky that are Steelers fans that's their one game they got to go to in their life, and they're just against you because you're that big of a piece of shit. I hope the Brown Stadium implodes. That stupid little elf logo. What is that? You have the dog pound. It is the coolest nickname for a fandom in the NFL. And you chose a fucking pixie.
Besides the black hole, I gotta get the black hole. The black hole is fire.
Nah, the dog pound, bro. The black hole is awesome, but the dog pound sounds cooler. Anyway, let's go to another division because we're done with the Browns. Oh my God. Okay. So where's the love? Jesus fucking Christ. This is the first division that is definitely not in standing order for the end. unless
I tried to tell you. It was whatever headline popped in my head first. But
you know what's funny? What if this is how it ends, right? Because no one's expecting.
I need to play the lottery tonight then.
Yeah, right. But okay, because we kind of already touched on three of these, well, two of these things with Detroit. Everyone got them as their sleeper team. I don't know. I don't remember a year where the Super Bowl rematch wasn't the opening game, but for some fucking reason, the Lions versus the Chiefs is the opening game this year. I mean, good for Lions fans, but kind of bullshit if you're an Eagles fan. Like, you made the Super Bowl. That's like kind of
no. It's only the rematch if they play each other that year. If they don't, you gotta remember, you don't play every team. So
yeah. But either way, I feel like that should just be the tradition. Make that the exception. There's 17.
Honestly, that should have been like, now that they're doing the 17 games, that could have been what.
Yeah, it's possible, but I feel like it's the Lions division to lose, only because they seem to be, ironically, the most complete squad, or tight knit team. I don't know how else to say it because it's not a talent thing; it's a how they work together thing. Minnesota is all offense, no defense.
Yeah, but same thing with Detroit. I still don't believe in their defense. I know they did some things to tighten up the defense. I still just don't believe in it. My thing is, I think a lot of people just love to hate on Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. The Vikings are not a bad team. So
they're not a bad team, but they're a terrible defense.
Yeah, but I think they'll be better.
You hope they'll be better because the Vikings fan I know that's a diehard Vikings fan is over this era of Vikings football for a reason, and it's not because he
yeah, but they were
Kirk Cousins isn't bad. No one ever said he.
Yeah, but my thing
bad.
is they were the worst. I believe they ended up being the worst defense in football. So it was one of those things like they can't be worse. You know what I mean? They can only get better.
Yeah, but at the same time, everybody. So your problems with Detroit is on the defensive end, not the offensive end, and they've added to their running game. Packers are up in the air. I feel like me and you don't want to shit on anybody, so let's just leave it up in the air for now. So we're pretty much talking about Minnesota and or the Bears besides Detroit, right? Because we don't really feel like the Packers are in this conversation for the North this year. But hey, if love shows up, me and you will be the first ones on here like, holy shit, the Packers did it a third time or a fourth time. But I really feel like it's not the Vikings. The Vikings, as you said, have been a good team, and I guess it's kind of their division to lose because it is their division until they lose it.
That's what I'm saying.
But the Bears, man, they added DJ Moore, like
Bears.
Justin Fields is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the league.
He's the best running. But see, that's the thing. He's the best running quarterback. He's one of the best running. I don't know about dual threat yet. We'll see. We will see. As you know, I'm a big fan of DJ Moore. I do like what they did at their wide receiver room. Again, is it death row? No, but it's at least good enough where you can evaluate your quarterback freely. Their draft was a little weird to me. I thought it was a very interesting draft. It's just going to depend on Justin Fields. How good can he be? If he can be a dual threat like you're saying, where he's good. Well, I mean, if he's just as good throwing as he is running, he's going to be the best quarterback in football.
I think more Mooney as a number 2 and not as a number 1, and then Claypool as your number 3 has potential when it comes to good weapons. Because that's
what I'm saying. He has good weapons for sure. That's what I'm saying. So
that's what I'm saying, dude. Like the more thing frees it up because if all you had to do was double team Mooney, you know what I mean? Offensively, it's like, yeah, let him beat us with his legs. What else do they have? And they got Cole Kmet, right? He's still their tight end. So like that offense is there, and if that offense can just gel, that's it. Not even click, not click.
But the defense still needs some work too. That's what I'm saying. It's not like they're not a good football team. It's just a matter of how good is Justin Fields going to be. If he can become a dual threat guy, a guy that can throw from the pocket, a guy that can make plays with his arms as well as his legs. We know what he can do with his legs.
So you're saying it's Minnesota's division to lose this year?
Yeah, I think honestly, if I was going to rank them, I would say Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago again. I just don't think the Chicago defense is enough. Their offensive line.
You still got the Packers over Chicago?
Yeah, only because I don't believe in the Chicago defense, which is ironic to say, just the history of that franchise. Their offensive line is still kind of like up in the air. We don't know. Like they revamped it, so we got to see it, right? I got to see it to believe in it. And again, I don't know about Justin Fields. I don't know. You know, again, if you're gonna tell me if the sports guys themselves are gonna say, hey, he's gonna be fine as a quarterback, then yeah, I would change my rankings. But as of right now, I gotta see it. Because there's been times where I saw from Justin Fields, it was like, yeah, I know your receivers aren't that good, but that wasn't a good throw, bro, or that wasn't a good decision. You know what I mean? So that doesn't change. I don't care who you have receivers. If you're not accurate or if you're not making good decisions, I don't care who you have. Like, you're not going to be good. So I got to see it. Again, to your point, if Justin Fields is like, oh, thank God I got some weapons and I could beat me now, and he tears it up, yeah, they can mess around and win the division. I wouldn't be that surprised. But it's a quarterback-driven league. If your quarterback is just that good, you can be that good. I just don't think their roster is that good. I think they improved their wide receiver core, and that's about it. We'll see about the offensive line. We'll see about the defense. But that's the only thing we can say for sure they upgraded. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't have that much to say about this division because I don't think it's that great of a division. The Lions. Again, the Lions, so there's a difference when you're the hunted, not the hunters. So that's part of it too.
No, I feel like this is a division that's up in the air. It could either be the worst or we could be doing whole pods just about the North in just a few weeks.
Yeah, so there's just so many question marks. I mean, again,
yeah, we all got to see it, man, because the most annoying thing to me is I can see a world where the Vikings are at the top of the division and Justin Jefferson's in the MVP conversation, and I can see a conversation where they're at the bottom of the division, and the narrative is, do they trade Justin Jefferson for a shit ton of picks, or do they build around him with all the good picks they'll have because they suck this year and they'll be back right to it next year? Right. I can see all these things happening. Right. I can see the same thing happening with the Lions. Either being the same old Lions and being at the bottom of the barrel, or them actually being at the top of the division and the NFL like, we don't know what's going on right now. And
honestly, the only team I'm confident in terms of where I think they will be. I think Green Bay will be third or fourth. That's the one thing I'm confident about. Jordan Love, like I'm not trying to hate on him, but we haven't seen anything from him that makes me say he's going to be great. I don't like their weapons. I don't like their defense is okay. Aaron Rodgers being great really held this team up a lot. Jordan Love, I don't care what he is, he ain't Aaron Rodgers. So we know that for a fact. He's not Aaron Rodgers. So that the one thing I think I'm confident in saying is Green Bay will be on the bottom half of that division. Whether they're third or fourth or not, who knows? But unless everybody else is just hurt and Green Bay is the one healthy team that just chugs along and wins it at 7-9.
Maybe.
Great. But like even then, that to me, my point is I'm very confident in saying I don't think they're going to be that good of a team. So that's the one thing everybody else is up in the air. To your point, Minnesota could be number 1, they could be number 4. We see that in the NFL, right? Every year there's one team that goes from 1 to 4, there's one team that goes from 4 to 1. So that could be Minnesota this year. So who knows? We'll see. Okay, AFC South. The biggest thing is the Indianapolis stuff, so I'll do that last. This is a huge year for Trevor Lawrence. Can he officially crack the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL? Nick Wright certainly believes so. I think so too. I've seen Trevor Lawrence was really good down the stretch last year.
My brain did not click with the Titans one at first, and my brain was like, "What the fuck is the Titanic have to do with anything?" And I was like, "I legitimately that broke my brain just now." Like I was just like, "What the fuck?" And it took me a second to remember who was in the South, just so if anyone saw what my face just did, because I was just like, "The fuck is going on?" Like, sorry, my brain 100%.
I think it's the Jaguars' time. Calvin Ridley is a huge upgrade. The defense is getting better. Trevor Lawrence, this is his year, right? He was supposed to be the golden boy. He was supposed to be the next sure first ballot Hall of Famer. And unfortunately,
this is a make or break year for him too, because I feel like if they're not that good, they're not going to be shy about possibly moving on from them.
Well, I think he's proven enough last year where unless he has a horrible year, I think they know he's their guy going forward.
I feel like I feel like the Jags should win this division. Just to be clear with everybody, the irony is I feel like the Jags should win this division. I feel like if Indy just gets their shit together, and now I guess we know Irsay is the worst owner, because their rookie quarterback has been been looking exciting in the preseason. The Houston too, man. Houston and the Colts should worry the Jags for that top spot more than the Titans. The Titans, if anything, have peaked. The
Titans are like the Steelers. They're that weird team where you can't really count them out because they always play above what they think they're supposed to be and stuff like that. So Titans are weird.
But their issue, just like the Steelers, is they also play down to their competition.
That's true,
and that's problematic when all the teams in the South, and I'll give them all this credit, are equally hungry. Yeah, like these dudes, these aren't teams like the Cowboys trying to reach a level like that they've thirsted for. These are teams trying to establish a level that doesn't exist, with the exception of the Colts, that doesn't exist for their franchise. The Jags have never tasted a championship. The Titans got to it 20-something years ago, aka no one on this team was even watching that Super Bowl. That's how long ago that was. It was like 1998. These kids were just born, essentially. Like, or their children, and they're not even watching the game.
I think it was 2000, right? I think it was the year 2000.
What's the year 2000?
I think it was.
So it was 99. It was the 99.
Well, it was the 99 season, but it's played in February. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So either way, that's 23, 24 years ago. And the majority, so if you're 30, you were 6. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, okay. Like, that's all I'm saying. That's a long time ago. The Music City Miracle is a long time ago. They're hungry for it. The Houston is just trying to say, hey, dodged the bullet with Deshaun, didn't we? Because if they make the playoffs before the Browns did,
Houston's weird because they went all in last year. They're obviously not going to tank this year, but they obviously are giving up on this year because they gave up their first round pick. The Titans,
who has their first round pick?
The Cardinals.
For what?
Because remember, they drafted C.J. Stroud second, but then they traded back up to 3 to get Will Anderson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they don't have a first round pick this year, so they obviously aren't going to tank. They're going to go for it. But again, the question is, where's the talent? They just roster wise, you just don't see the talent.
They're what the Lions were 2 years ago.
Yeah. So
just be competitive, and everyone will give you your flowers for it. Because let's be real, man. If it's the Jags and the Texans are even in the conversation for a wild card, it's a win of a season.
I mean, honestly, I'll put it this way: if the Jags are so bad that any of these teams are in the conversation for the division, somebody might get fired.
No, I'm saying I think the Jags run away with the division. I'm saying though, if Houston could even talk, like there's a machination that Houston could be a wild card team. Not saying that they are, but how the last 4 weeks,
I know what you mean.
If these 8 teams lose, this one guy ties, and birds fly west instead of south, then maybe the wind will get the. You know what I mean? Like that's.
No, I know what you mean. I know they're on the bubble to the last day, basically.
I mean, shit. I guess we're done here because I feel like we're both saying the same thing. It's the Jags and everyone else, and if it's not, that's a problem for
the one thing I want to talk about is the Indianapolis Colts, because this is probably the biggest story in football right now, the Jonathan Taylor situation.
And, I didn't think you wanted to get sidetracked with that.
No, and that's why I'm gonna do them last, and potentially the Anthony Richardson situation. So here's
real quick for the Jonathan Taylor. I just want to sum up for everybody in this way. They don't want to pay him because he's a running back, because they don't think running backs are that valuable. So they don't want to pay him what he's valued at.
And they're
they're not going to. They don't want to trade him for what they value him at. They want to trade him for what he values himself at, because he's worth that to the team. He's just not worth that to the team if they have to pay him what he's worth.
Right. And to be fair, they're saying he's injured. He's saying he's not, blah, 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 blah. So
which is why they're going to try to trade him, because you can always trade injured players.
Right. So here's the thing with that, right? To me, and I love Pat McAfee. He's a Pittsburgher, but like he's killing me on this topic because he's bleeding blue ridiculously. It's so obvious that he's being a Colts fanboy, and I get it. He played for the Colts. Jim Irsay is a friend of his. I get it. But it's almost like, bro, don't even talk about it then if you're going to be that ridiculously blind. So here's the thing. To me, it's
the ESPN aspect of it.
Yeah, it's just like, come on. I think it's sad what the Colts are doing. We talked about with the running backs situation as a whole, but the Jonathan Taylor situation. And by the way, Jonathan Taylor's from Jersey. Shout out to him. Look, you summed it up. It's, we don't want to pay you what you think you're worth because we devalue you. But when we trade you, we want to trade you as if you were a superstar football player, not a superstar running back, because that doesn't count because we don't pay superstar running backs. But
superstar running backs don't exist.
Right. But we want to trade you as if you have the value of a superstar player. And therefore we can't trade you because nobody's going to give that much up.
So because then they would have to pay you, and they don't want to give up all this stuff and pay. Well,
but see, that's the thing, though. I think I think what it really was is they didn't really want to trade him in the first place, and they were operating in bad faith. Because if the rumors are true, because they already set the standard of, we want a first round pick or the equivalent, and I think they said that hoping that nobody in their right mind would do that. But there were some teams that said, yeah, we'll do that. He's a superstar running back. Like, those guys are different. A la the Dolphins, a la the Packers, and they're saying to themselves, if we got a guy like that on our team, that could be the difference between us making the playoffs or not.
The Giants, with Daniel Jones alone, when Barkley's on the field, the Giants operate differently.
Right. And so I think teams called and said, yeah, we'll be willing to give you either a first round pick or equivalent, which is probably the Christian McCaffrey trade of 2, 3, 4, whatever. The Eagles were even interested, right? But the problem was that really wasn't what they wanted. They wanted to set the bar so high that they knew people would say no. So if the rumors are true, they asked the Dolphins for Waddle and picks. Not just Waddle and picks for Jonathan Taylor. And it's like, dude, that doesn't make any sense. And so, Pat McAfee and other Colts fans are saying, oh, well, yeah, like that makes sense. He's their second receiver. Like, bro, stop it. Waddle's a number one on most teams. He's not a number one on the Dolphins because they have Tyreek freaking Hill. Like, stop it. And two, even if he was a number two receiver, again, the NFL values number two receivers way more than they value number one running backs. So no matter how you slice it, that was a ridiculous trade demand to say, well, if we're going to trade him, it's got to be for one of your best players and picks, not even a one for one of your best players and picks to get the deal done, which tells me you
for a running back, which again, just to remind everybody, from what the NFL tells us, aren't valuable.
Right, from what Jim Irsay said, because he could leave tomorrow and the NFL will still go. Like, come on, stop it.
Which again, they really like the annoying part about this, as you guys know, is I cover politics all the time, and I'm used to doublespeak. It annoys me because at least when it's about taxes or anything like bureaucratic and it's overly complicated, I understand how they can do it. This isn't that overly complicated. You said he's not worth paying, but then at the same time, he's not worth paying, but he's worth a first round pick and a star player back. Are you going to pay that star player? Like this is, I'm not, if I'm just operating, okay, I'll take you at face value. And if I'm taking you at face value, none of these movements make sense.
Yeah.
Nice. That's it. I don't even want to get sidetracked because me and you could do a whole fucking podcast about how shady the NFL is when it comes to paying.
Real quick with Anthony Richardson, I'm kind of excited. This is more about what we'll get to when we get to the Niners and Trey Lance. But I want to kind of touch on this now. I understand, like, Anthony Richardson, as you know, I've said this on this pod. I was really excited about Anthony Richardson because his talent was immense. We'll see what we'll see what he ever becomes as a quarterback, but his talent is immense. But I'm going to give a letter of caution to the Colts and to their fans, to everything. Y'all got to play this right. Everybody said if you draft Anthony Richardson, he's probably going to have to sit a year. He's probably going to need some time. Now, I get it. On the Colts, there's not like they have another quarterback that's even worth being their starting quarterback this year anyway. So I kind of understand them saying, let's just throw him out there now and see what he does. But what I want to make sure y'all do is do not sit here and a year later be like, oh, he's not our guy if he struggles this year. Because again, what the hell did you draft him for if you knew he was going to need time? Like, if everybody's saying he needs time, that means you need to give him time. Same thing with Trey Lance. The way the 49ers handled Trey Lance was atrocious. You traded up for him because you had Jimmy Garoppolo, so you had the time to give Trey Lance. But then a year later, you're like, nah, we want to throw him in there now. And everybody's looking at you like, why? I thought we were all on the same page. This dude needs like 2 years. He didn't even play Division I football. He needs 2 years at least to learn the game. Now we're going to throw him in now. He played 2 games, one in a monsoon. The other, he broke his leg 4 plays into the game. And now a year later, they're done with him and they trade him to the Cowboys. And it's like
one of the worst draft day trades of any franchise in NFL history.
And it's like, what the hell? And so my thing is, and I don't think it's fair because now Trey Lance is being put in that all-time bust category. But I'm like, but that's not his fault. You drafted him 3rd overall. Everybody knew this guy needs time. And what I'm saying is I don't want the same thing to happen to Anthony Richardson. You drafted him 4th overall. Everybody said, yo, the upside is crazy, but you're going to have to give this brother time. Again, I'm not mad at them throwing him out there now only because unlike the Niners, who else are they going to play at quarterback? I don't even know who else is on the roster. So go ahead and do the trial by fire. Sure, cool. But my thing is, unless circumstances change drastically, like if he's so bad that they only win a game and they have the number 1 pick in the draft and Caleb Williams is sitting there, okay, I get it. It's like, all right, well, damn, we have this generational quarterback right here in our midst. Cool. But unless something like that happens, I don't want to see come draft day them trading up for the number 1 pick. Because my thing is, what did you draft this guy 4th overall for if you already decided, well, if we're bad enough to trade up for the number 1 pick, we're going to do it regardless. If that was the case, don't draft him. Draft somebody else that could have helped your football team. Like, you had other needs besides quarterback. So that's the only thing I'm going to say with Indy. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is now that I'm seeing the way they're treating Jonathan Taylor and the way they've kind of run their organization since Andrew Luck has left, I'm scared that that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to put this kid out there. They're going to see, hey, if we catch lightning in the bottle and he's great, great. If he's not, we'll just go draft another quarterback anyway. I think that's a disservice to Anthony Richardson because now you're going to put him in a bust category and you're basically going to ruin his career because you weren't smart enough to know, like, hey, if we draft this guy, we got to be patient with him. Or if we're going to be tanking for Caleb Williams anyway, don't draft a quarterback at 4. Move back or draft somebody else. So that's what I wanted to say about Anthony Richardson, because I'm scared about his future in Indy because I just don't trust them. I just don't trust the way they do things. I don't trust the way they're going about how they handle their personnel and everything else. I have a bad feeling if they go 4-13 this year and they have the 3rd pick in the draft, instead of drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., which they should be doing, they're going to trade up for Caleb Williams. And it's going to be like, yo, why? What did you even draft this kid for if that's what you were going to do anyway? Like, so that's the only thing I got to say about that. Like, be patient with this kid. Give him time. Now, yeah, if it's year 3 and he still looks like he's, can't even figure out a defense, okay, that's different. But, like, you got to give him that time. Like, anyway, NFC South. Okay. Are we sleeping on the Saints? This division is another one that's just head scratching to me. I don't know. Like, I just don't know. This 3 teams were actually pretty decent last year without a quarterback. The Panthers, the Saints, and the Bucks. Well, the Bucks had Tom Brady. But the other 2 teams, the Saints and the Bucks, they were right there for the division all year without a quarterback. Now they have a quarterback. And yet, for some reason, instead of me being like, oh my God, this team's really good, I'm still like, meh. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird.
I feel like it's the Saints, and then the Saints should win it. Derek Carr just needs a competent defense that's not the worst in the league, and maybe he'll make the playoffs. And that's usually what his career is if he has any type of competence on the other side of the ball. So I feel like it's the Saints division to lose. The Bucks, I don't feel like they're actually in this conversation right now. They may be. Maybe I'm really wrong, but I feel like the Bucks and the Falcons are fighting for a 3rd spot, because if the Panthers are in any way, shape, or form competent, they should be the ones challenging the Saints for the South. But with that said, maybe the Falcons are that sleeper team, because I don't feel like the Saints are a sleeper team. I feel like the Saints are the expected winners of the division.
Yeah, I agree.
That's about it. Like the Panthers wouldn't be shocking if they win the division. I feel like and they wouldn't be shocking if they were the worst team in the division. They have the most wiggle room and the least difference between expectations and reality. Like, you could think they're going to be trash and it's a rebuilding year, or you could feel excited and feel like, hey, any type of positive movement in the standings is good for us, because that's an improvement on last year. That's where they're at, because that's the truth. If they win 6 games, it'll probably be better. It'll be a better season than last year, and they can build off of it. If they win 8 games, even better. If they are just a competent team but only win 4 or 5 games.
I think they were 8-9 last year. So, like, I mean, Panthers are weird. I like Bryce Young again.
Last year?
Yeah, I think they were 8-9 or 7 and I don't know, but they were a game out of the division.
Yeah, well, the division was trash. That's like
yeah, the division was trash. It's weird. I like Bryce Young. History says when you trade that much up to get a guy, it doesn't actually work out in your favor, because again, you need draft picks to win in this league, and you gave up DJ Moore to do it. I understand DJ Moore is not the greatest receiver in the league, but he's still a pretty damn good receiver. And with their weapons they have now, it's okay, it's good, but I'm not like, oh my God, look at the Panthers offense.
No, that's the irony of it, right? They moved their weapons to get a quarterback, and now they need to get the quarterback weapons again.
Yeah, like Adam Thielen's past his prime.
Still good. Still
good. I like the pick of Jonathan Mingo. Like, hey, Ole Miss receivers have been killing it in the league. If he's the next Ole Miss superstar, good for them. Then okay, maybe a mute point. Terrence Marshall continue. I think this is year 3 for him, so let's see what he can be. Again, their weapons room isn't bad, but it's also nobody's sitting there like, oh my God, how are we stopping the Panthers? You know what I mean? And Bryce Young, unfortunately, they haven't been able to protect him. The offensive line was something that was supposed to be a strength coming into this year, but Ike Ekwonu, who they drafted last year, up and down preseason, they lost their guard, I think, to injury. So that's not good. So if they can't protect Bryce Young, it's the same thing we say about Tua. Like that's a big deal. And not to mention Bryce Young hasn't looked that good when we saw him in preseason this year. So again, he's a rookie. That's expected. Hopefully he'll get it by the end of the year. But the one thing Bryce Young was supposed to be is a plug and play guy. That was his strength, right? He's the most NFL ready quarterback. He should be able to come in and read defenses and do all this stuff. If he's struggling, and I get it, he's still a rookie. I understand that, but like if he doesn't do the things that we thought he was at least going to be able to do, they might be in real trouble. Because again, you traded a lot to go get this guy. When again, you had Frank Wright, you had an offensive staff that I was really excited about. You had DJ Moore. I would have set again. Will Levis went in the second round. I would have been more okay with them taking Will Levis at 9 and seeing what they could do with him. Because even if he's not good in a year or two, you could then go get your quarterback. With Bryce Young, you're not moving off of him anytime soon. So you kind of have to make this work. And if it doesn't work, you're probably going to be firing your offensive, your coaching staff again anyway. So it's kind of a scary spot for the Panthers. Like this kind of has to work. And so far it doesn't look good against the preseason. But again, what do you do as a fan? If it doesn't even look good in preseason, that doesn't give me any excitement going into the regular season. So, there's that. The Bucs, I think they should be tanking. The Bucs are weird because again, they have a really good offensive. They probably have the best weaponry in the division in terms of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and some of the other things. You could argue the Falcons as well, but the weapons are there. Is Baker Mayfield a good quarterback? We'll see. I don't think he's great by any chance of stretch of the imagination, but can he be good? If I'm the Bucs, I think I'm trying to tank. I think I'm trying to tank. It's hard to do that in the NFL, especially when you have good players, and they do have good players, especially on that offensive side of the ball. But this is supposed to be a really good quarterback class, and I feel like if I'm the Bucs, why would I try to win the division this year? Like we're not going to win the Super Bowl. Tank. I think they should be tanking. Tank, try to get Caleb Williams, try to get Drake May, try to get one of these other guys that are coming out this year. Like, that's what they should be doing. And then the Falcons is weird. The Falcons, to your point, they could be a sleeper team because, again, they got weapons. They got Kyle Pitts. They got Drake London. They drafted Bijan Robinson.
And I think Bijan Robinson, as you'll see in a couple more slides, should be Rookie of the Year. That's some of the only time running backs get credit. But the Falcons, despite being the best arena in all of North American sports with their prices, shout out to the owner for doing that. And that's some real shit on some real human level. This is make or break for Desmond Ridder. Like he has not distinguished himself in the slightest. So like I feel like he's a placeholder.
Not to mention he's a third round pick, so you're not like tied to him. You know what I mean?
No, but like it's just they're the team that if there's some type of quarterback that's demanding a trade or could be on the move or something like that, the Falcons, as you know, they're one of those sleeper franchises that it's like, we can make a splash. They were in the Deshaun sweepstakes for a reason. If Bijan is good, maybe not Rookie of the Year good, just good. They could be looking to make moves in this draft to get a quarterback. Like, I feel like the Falcons can suck this year because there's so little expectations that if they're good players or their young players are good, their fans will be happy as long as they're competitive and not a complete, dumpster fire. But like, I feel like the Bucs should tank. The Bucs got Baker, right? That's where he is now. So who knows? The Bucs could be in this conversation in a couple of weeks. Like, no, they're going to win the division if they keep playing like this. There's crazier things than a team that won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago being competitive in the division.
That's what I'm saying. Their roster's not bad.
Yeah, exactly. And me and you both agreed Baker's fine. Like he's better. Baker is objectively better than two of these quarterbacks in this moment. You know what I mean? In this division, Bryce and Ridder. He's better.
But that's also not saying much. So that's the
no. But that's my point. But it's still the truth. Like I'd take Carr over him. That was true last year. That was true when he was beating the Steelers in the playoffs. That's just me, though.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Oh, and now we out west. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Wild Wild West, a state that's untouchable like Elliot Ness.
Can the Chiefs repeat? The answer is yes, they can repeat until somebody beats them. I'm not picking anybody to beat
Dog, them. I was gonna say, let's be real. We're gonna talk about the other teams.
Yeah,
it's the fucking Chiefs division.
Yes,
like anybody that thought we were gonna come out of it, we made the mistake last year of hyping up the Broncos on our podcast. Like we learned, and Russ seems to be on a short leash with Peyton.
Yeah, Peyton's weird, man. He was talking shit about Nathaniel Hackett. He was talking a lot of shit about.
Listen, I understand why it could be considered a negative that he was talking the shit when he came in, but as somebody who talks shit for fun and possibly as a living, where was the lie?
Yeah, I mean, well,
that's what I'm saying.
Here's the only reason why I respect it. They play each other week 4 or week 5 or something like that. So the fact that he said it before they played it, he didn't wait till after they won. He said it like that's a game that both teams are circling. So I respect it. At least he didn't go hiding or saying after the fact or whatever. He said it
publicly. Or in a loss and sounds like sour grapes or something. I agree, but at the same time, out of all the shit he talked about, the Hackett, the situation in Denver, Russell Wilson. And again, building off what I said about Deshaun, me and Brett love seeing black quarterbacks succeed in this league after a history of them just being pushed as a wide receiver. And we wanted Russell Wilson to be the same old Danger Russ in the Broncos country. He wasn't. Nothing that me and Brett would love to come on here and shit on old established coaches living off their past. That's what we do in a lot of instances. I'm waiting to hear where the lie was. What did Sean Payton say that we are disagreeing with? Because we can argue, well, should he have said it? Fuck this fake cordialness that the NFL has in the offseason. Like, these people are literally hitting each other so hard they could become paralyzed. But, the mean words, he said I did a bad job. The whole fucking world knows you did a bad job, Hackett. The whole world knows you did a trash job.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's hard to get fired in 1 year. Right? Usually they give you a grace year. Like for you to be so bad, they're like, yeah, bro, matter of fact, he got fired before the year was even over.
Yeah, they were bad. They were so bad that the team had to be like, no, we're not selling everybody off because they were so confident it was the coaching.
Yeah,
that's how bad he was. So I don't even want to defend Peyton. He like I'm more used to him being a rival coach than in the AFC. I'm not like mentally prepared to defend him. I'm just saying, like, if he said something that I thought was a lie, maybe I'd be like, yeah, he shouldn't have said it. And everything he said was like, yeah, I know, we saw that. like he's like, wow, this was a shit team I walked in on. Yeah, we know. That's why you got hired. like. Fucking A, make or break year for how bad will the Raiders be? The Raiders could be the worst in the division, or they could surprise and be the second in the division. That's my opinion. That's their yo-yo because everybody's sleeping on them to the point where it's like, if Jimmy G's healthy, he's a good quarterback, y'all. I don't know where.
But see, for me, it's Josh McDaniels. I have zero faith in Josh.
Oh no, fuck Josh McDaniels. He's a trash coach. He shouldn't even be there. Derek Carr should still be a Raider. Josh McDaniels should be jobless. Period. But the Chargers. Herbert, like this, I'm so happy you said make or break year for the Chargers. Also, like you could have been like no Chargers, no, or go Chargers, go. This is like your least creative one.
Again, your least creative. At this point, it's 2:00 in the morning. So okay,
yeah, well, you're fucked up. But anyway, no, these are terrible headlines. These are not playful. These aren't creative. You just said fuck the West. But
I did. I distinctly remember saying, yo, man, I got a couple more slides to go. Let's just get this over with.
Because the Chargers, Herbert, listen, man, I'm not in the camp that he's top 5 quarterback in the league.
Nope, me neither.
You can make the argument maybe top 10, but he's literally done nothing. He's put up numbers.
Look, listen, I understand the talent, but the love affair with Justin Herbert, when we keep like just putting him in that top 5 category, I'm like, how? He hasn't what? He finally made the playoffs
and lost to the Raiders.
Lost to the Jaguars.
I'm sorry.
Even though he had a ridiculously large lead in the first half. Any other quarterback we would have been trashing, but for some reason, we're not trashing Justin Herbert.
And the same people, the same QB bros that will love Justin Herbert and shit on my Danny Dimes, just to throw this out there, one of the positives for Justin Herbert, and to his credit, is all the numbers he's put up through injuries and all this stuff, but he's had weapons his whole career. I don't want to hear that he's throwing into nobodies, because he's not. I saw a quarterback that isn't good as Justin Herbert throwing to nobodies and win a playoff game. Now you can say, oh, the AFC is deep. The AFC is deeper than the NFC. You're right. Right now in this point in NFL history, the AFC quarterback-wise is as deep as it's ever been. And that's saying a lot, but it's as deep as it's ever been. With that being said, he made the fucking playoffs and he lost. He didn't beat the Jags. The Jags were not the better team. Everybody expected the Chargers to win. So at what point are we just going to be honest with what Justin Herbert is, or are we going to start saying like, hey, this coach isn't right, which I don't necessarily agree with either. From all accounts, the coach is pretty good. I don't want to say it's the coaching. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, I think that's another thing too. When I say make or break here for the Chargers, I really do think it's for the Brandon Staley. He hasn't done anything. Remember, he's the idiot that called the timeout when they should have made the playoffs last year.
You're right. You reminded me. You're reminded. So, that's why I thought the Raiders game was the playoff game. Again, awesome rivalry when the games matter is Chargers Raiders. When the games are actually matter with those teams, they both show up. It is a good rivalry as an objective fan. And I'm using it, honestly, I guess I'm not objective because I always want the Raiders to win. So that's I'm not objective at all.
The Chargers are one of those weird teams. They drafted Quentin Johnson, which I thought was an interesting pick because Quentin Johnson, unless you're telling me that's just what Justin Herbert likes in his receivers, Quentin Johnson is exactly what they already have. A big body receiver that doesn't necessarily get separation, but he's going to get all the contested catches. And it's like, yeah, but I think you guys needed a separator more than anything else. I'm surprised you went with Quentin Johnson. Now, again, I don't remember the draft order, but if you're telling me all the other guys were taken at that point and they were just like, well, screw it, we're going to take Quentin Johnson. Okay, that's fair. Like that's not a bad pick, especially if you know Justin Herbert does well with big body receivers. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with having a bunch of guys on the field that are just taller than everybody else. That is a way to play. I just thought it was a weird pick. And that's coming from a guy who likes Quentin Johnson. But yeah, I just feel like the Chargers are one of those weird teams that's like, I don't know what to expect from them because it's the same thing every year. They got a bunch of talent, but they can never stay healthy. Those guys that can't stay healthy are still on the team. So
there's an overhyped quarterback that puts up really good numbers and is not relevant come end of December.
Yeah.
So that's the Chargers in a nutshell. And
we've seen I mean, to be fair, we've seen that for what, 20 years now?
No, that's why I was saying, bro, you didn't prove when all these times we argued the Eli, Big Ben, Phillip Rivers stuff. You didn't make me go, wow, Eli's not a Hall of Famer. You made me go, wow, maybe Phillip Rivers should be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because you get lost in the sauce sometimes. And Phillip Rivers, by all accounts, has had a great career. He's good enough that when they talked about him coming out of retirement, people were like, hey, let's see if he still got it. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not shitting. I'm shitting on Justin Herbert in the sense of him being the cream of the crop, top of the elite. I am not denying that if you have a gun to my head and say Daniel Jones or Justin Herbert, I'm gonna say Daniel Jones. I'm not saying that. This isn't an Eli Phillip Rivers thing. As much fun as that was for 20 years, this is not that situation. This is just at what point, like the Chargers are going to break down like that team. Teams don't stay intact for 3-4 years anymore, and they're going to have to blow it up, especially if they don't even make it out the first round of the playoffs. If they do, in fact, make the playoffs, because again, if Sean Payton is Sean Payton and he rights the ship on the Broncos, that's Russell Wilson with a shit ton of weapons on the offense.
But the only problem with that is too, like Jerry Jeudy's hurt. They've lost a lot of weapons in the offseason. So I don't think the Broncos are going to be that good this year.
The Jerry Jeudy injury sucks, man. That just
So, but that might not be because of bad Russ. That might be because they're just injured. But again, the Chargers could be injured. So who knows?
The Chargers could be injured, and who fucking knows? Maybe Josh McDaniels finally recreates the Patriots, and we have Pat West with him and Jimmy G. I'm not holding my fucking breath on that. Yeah, sure. I think we'll see a Chargers Super Bowl before we see that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. In terms of the West,
okay, here real quick. Is it time to look at Shanahan?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. No. Second question. Yes. Rams fall off. Yes.
Yeah, I mean
that's my nutshell.
I think it is, but see, my thing is, I think it is time to look at Shanahan. Like we always talk about, he's the boy wonder. He's the boy wonder. I'm like, what has he won? He got to 2 Super Bowls, lost them both with a lead.
You know what my answer to that is?
He's injured two. He's injured 2 quarterbacks that at least had high upside now with RG3 and Trey Lance.
Whoa. The RG3 thing is a little bit different. Ownership really pushed that too. I'm not putting the RG3 stuff on Kyle Shanahan, who was just an OC. I can't. That's just not fair in my opinion. Okay, with Trey Lance, I can see it a little bit more, but again, it's where you draft. It's how you moved up for him. There's a lot more machinations than just Shanahan. To me, the proof's in the pudding. He's been a great coach. He's been making the Super Bowl twice and losing is still making the Super Bowl. Like I'm an Eagles hater. I love the fact that he lost the Super
Bowl. Well, hold on. He was an offense coordinator for one, but I'm just saying it's not like he.
But he's still. But his offense is. We see him in the offense in a positive way. Every one of his offenses they're fucking machines, dude.
But let's also be real though. The 49ers' strength isn't their offense, it's their defense.
No, I agree. But the 49ers' strength last year was they put in Mr. Irrelevant and they were still moving that ball.
I mean, I guess so. I guess
hold on. In this same pod, literally right here in this box we're in right now, right? We shit on Bill Belichick for living in the past and not being able to utilize certain quarterbacks, which Shanahan's doing. Me and you agree. Josh McDaniels, nothing but hype. You should stick to being an OC because you're not that good of a head coach. I'm just saying Shanahan is exactly what Josh McDaniels wishes he was.
No, I agree with. I'm not saying he's not an offensive genius. What I'm saying is the mismanaging of Trey Lance, I feel like he's gotten a total pass for. And I mentioned this earlier where everybody's talking about Trey Lance as being a bust. I'm like, wait a minute. You trade up and drafted him when everybody and their mother knew that this dude needed more time. And the reason why we thought it was a good pick is you had Jimmy Garoppolo. And then remember, a year later, you wanted to throw Jimmy Garoppolo out of the building and you couldn't do it because he had a shoulder injury, so you couldn't trade him. So I mean,
and I agree to a certain point. That's all I mean. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying he should hold no responsibility. I don't think it's time for him to be on the hot seat for that.
But also, even Brock Purdy, like he's coming off of Tommy John surgery. Like he had a nice little 7 weeks, and that's great. But let's not act like he's the second coming here either. We haven't seen that.
No, I agree. I don't get why they got rid of Jimmy G. I'm being serious. Like I would have kept Jimmy G. I think me and you.
Yeah, they got rid of Jimmy G and Trey Lance, and their backup quarterback is Sam Darnold. And I'm off the Sam Darnold train. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, we're both off the Sam Darnold train, but I also think that's a good backup to have. You know what I mean? Like you're not confident you're winning a Super Bowl with him. But then again,
but that's my point. This team is a Super Bowl or bust team.
Like, no, 100%. But Brock Purdy.
If we're saying if it's not the Eagles, everybody's saying, well, it's got to be the 49ers then, right? Like,
but I feel like this is just my personal, this is straight up opinion. I don't have anything besides the eye test on this one, right? I personally feel if they felt if they were that competitive with Mr. Irrelevant, they'll be fine with Sam Darnold. That's my personal opinion.
In theory, yes. And
I feel like Geno has a chance to repeat. I really do. I feel like the Seahawks shouldn't be slept on, and so we'll see what they are this year.
Man, I think the Seahawks could be phenomenal. I'm not sure, but I think they should be phenomenal.
The Rams is the biggest question here because should the Cards trade Kyle? Yeah, if they're going to be trash, you might as well get a haul for him. That's my honest opinion.
You can get a haul for him.
If you can get a haul for him, don't trade it for nothing. But if you can get a couple good picks and the players back, do it. But and exactly what I said on the last slide, or 2 slides ago, about the NFC South with the Falcons. Falcons might be that team to trade for Kyle. Just saying. But Kyler. You keep saying Kyle because you wrote Kyle. Kyler.
Oh yeah, that's again. It was 2 a.m.
My
Sorry.
my brain was like, why do you keep saying Kyle? Kyler.
Yeah.
But the Rams are nuts. Yo, I love this era of football, bro. That we have this many good defenses. I really do, because I'm like, yeah, they're definitely gonna fall off. And all I saw was a nightmare image of Aaron Donald, and I was like, or not. Maybe they won't. You know what? I think I'm wrong. I don't know. All I saw, well, he wasn't even in uniform. He was just standing there in my brain. And I was like, actually, I'm wrong. like, like Shug. I mean, Donald's. Like,
he just put his hand on your shoulder and you're just like,
oh yeah, they're definitely falling off. No, maybe not.
They're gonna win the division. Oh, I'm sorry.
Y'all the champs. Fuck them picks. I
mean, yeah, it's weird. It's a weird thing. I think if Matthew Stafford is healthy, they have a chance. I'm not gonna go against Cooper Kupp. I'm not gonna go against Aaron Donald. Obviously, they don't have Jalen Ramsey or Von Miller anymore, but I think that defense still should at least be decent.
Yeah, right. When I said fall off in my head, I still thought like, wait, it's still going to be a good team. Like, I fall off from like contention.
Maybe. Well, the problem is they were terrible last year. You know, we forget the Lions had the 6th pick in the draft, which wasn't even their pick; it was the Rams pick. Ironically, the Seahawks and the Seahawks had the 5th pick in the draft because of the Broncos. But yes, I mean, we'll see. I feel like I like Matthew Stafford personally. I root for him because I think he gets a lot of crap for being on those horrible Detroit teams, and like people like blame him for some reason, or like say like, oh, he was held up by Megatron. When I'm like, that's not how that works. But okay, so I root for him to continue to be successful and like
1,000-yard seasons with one receiver, right?
Yeah, it's like okay, like. Yeah, like that's not usually how that works. But
well, he was like 2,000 of them. That's fucking amazing. That's not like that's anyway.
There's still 3,000 yards that you're not accounting for, but okay.
Like, which would still be starting quarterback numbers, but okay.
Right. Like
again, me and Brett had that whole conversation about Eli again in the last week. And when people in our chat were throwing out Stafford's not a Hall of Famer, and I was like, why not? Like, I'm just throwing it out there. I said that before he won the ring. If he wins the ring, he's going to the Hall. Because I saw his career in Detroit. I was low-key one of the biggest Stafford fans when he was still doing those commercials. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be player of the week. And then, you know, Aaron Rodgers is playing on Monday night. And he's like, motherfucker. like those commercials, I was like, yo, Stafford doesn't get the credit. Because I've been a fan of Stafford since the Lions-Browns game. And he got the Lions their first win in like 2 seasons.
Yeah, like, didn't he have like a broken shoulder or something like that?
Dislocated shoulder.
Yeah, like come on, bro.
I've been a Stafford fan since then, and I'll be a Stafford fan short of him being like, you know, Brett Favre when he retires trying to scam the whole state. Like short of that, I'm gonna be a Stafford fan forever.
As long as you don't do that, I'm probably gonna be.
As long as you don't do that, you're not like a serial predator like Deshaun Watson or a serial scumbag like Brett Favre, or you're not a cowboy. I will respect you forever.
All right, let's talk about these awards. MVP, I had Jalen Hurts. Again, I went back and forth on this, and I said, you know what? If the Eagles have another great season, Jalen Hurts didn't get it last year because he got injured. They'll probably give it to him this year. You said Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to disagree with that at all. So yeah, we'll do that. Defensive player of the year, you put TJ Watt. I put Miles Garrett. Now I will say this.
The fucking irony.
No. But here's why. I don't know what's going on. There is this weird thing where people are just like underrating TJ Watt lately, and I don't know what it is. Like Colin Cowherd had his list of like players that are gonna be Hall of Fame right now, and Miles Garrett was on that list, and TJ Watt wasn't. ESPN did their rank of best defensive players. TJ Watt was 7th, and Miles Garrett was 4th. So for some reason,
I think the TJ Watt thing is because of injury. That's it. That's all I got. I'm just being serious. Like, it's kind of like when the last couple of years, or since he's left the Giants, Odell isn't ranked when people are listing. Oh, who do you think are the best receivers? He's not even mentioned.
But it's weird because the NFL loved JJ, right? Like JJ was like the face of the NFL in his prime. TJ, I think for his whole career has been underrated. We did that pod when Aaron Donald won Defensive Player of the Year. I'm like, how? TJ's numbers are better across the board. They were better, and he played less games. So
it's the Steelers effect, bro. It's an overcorrection because in your head you're like, oh, I'm hyping him up because he plays for this state this foundational franchise of the NFL. So I'm overhyping his presence. When I purposely was like, I wasn't gonna pick him. But I thought of all these conversations we had, and I was like, I mean, like when I looked at the list, I was like, he's actually my safest bet. Like, just to not sound like an idiot. Because I'm not, Myles Garrett's not a bad pick. I'm laughing because you picked the Brown, not because you picked Myles Garrett.
No, but again, it's one of those weird things where Myles Garrett, for some reason, NFL media loves him, and I'm like, how? His numbers do not equate to T.J. Watt. So it's this weird thing where it's like Myles Garrett, like they're trying to push this narrative that he's the best defensive player in the league, and they're like subsequently, even last year, right? Again, I'm a big believer in your value also tells me what happens when you're gone, right? We've led the league in sacks the last 5 years in a row. TJ Watt missed 7 games last year. I think we only had 4 sacks in those games. TJ Watt, I forgot the stat, but like we went damn near every game that he's in. We're 1-10 when he doesn't play. Like he is a different.
I picked him, bro. I picked him. Like
no, but that's
again, why didn't you pick him? Is the real question.
No, but that's my point. For me, he should be the guy that you pencil in for defensive player. To me, he's the best defensive player in football. Maybe outside of Aaron Donald, the only other guy I would put in that category. To me, he's the best defensive player in football. But for some reason, I don't vote on these awards. Right? I'm just predicting who. For some reason, I just see this thing where they're trying to push Myles Garrett as the guy, and they're dismissing TJ Watt. So I feel like if it's close, they're going to go with Myles Garrett. That's just how I look at it.
I did the opposite. I did it as if I was going to be voting and like, doing that look ahead. Who would you vote for if everything goes the way you think it's going to go? Just for some of my train of thought. Like, I'm not against voting for Patrick Mahomes because he's won in the past, right? It wasn't Jalen Hurts was like my third consideration. They went Mahomes and then Lamar. Because if Lamar stays healthy.
I was going to do Lamar.
And then it went TJ Watt. And then honestly, that was the biggest gap. I was like, honestly, I'm just going to go with TJ Watt. Because Aaron Donald, I was like, maybe. He's a little bit older. I might be going off of what he's done, not what I think he's going to do. And TJ Watt's the only name that I felt confident, like, if he's healthy, he should lead the league in sacks. Then I'll be sitting here like, hey,
I mean, think about it. TJ Watt to me should have won multiple defensive players of the year. The only time he won it was when he tied the sack record. And it's like, dude, you're telling me he has to tie the all-time sack record just to get the damn award?
And to be clear, I chose Jalen Carter not because of any other reason than my train of thought. If I was really voting, I'm going to see him more than other defensive rookies. And he was a steal for the fucking Eagles in the draft. The Eagles defense was already good.
Well, that's why I didn't pick. I was going to pick him, but I feel like because the Eagles defense is going to be so good, he might not get enough individual credit to get the award.
Or I feel like the opposite. I feel like they're going to be so good, he's going to eat more and he's going to get overhyped. You know what I mean? Like
that can happen too. That could definitely happen.
I feel like we're going to be sitting here like, he's having a great season for a rookie. Is he the best defensive rookie? Blah blah blah. I feel like that's what's going to happen because the edges are going to take it away, and he's just going to feast. You know what I mean? Like the other players, the more established players, are going to be the bigger concern. And then if he's doubled up, the other players are going to eat, and that's exactly what happened with the Giants. What's his face? Kayvon wasn't eating because he was getting doubled, but then you got Sexy Dexy fucking feasting because they forgot about him. So it's that's how defenses work, man.
Well, I put Will Anderson because he was the most hyped player coming into the draft on defense. He's supposed to be this generational star.
It's my Northern NFC bias that I didn't pick Will Anderson. That's all I want to throw out there. Because I saw you put Will Anderson, I was like, fuck, that's a good idea. Why didn't I think of that? Like, that's it. Just 100% transparent with everybody. I really was. That's my NFC East bias shine, and it's the only. I knew I had to pick at least one Eagle for one of these fucking awards, so I chose that one.
Yeah, we both put Bijan Robinson. I think that's a safe bet for.
And me and you are both fans of running backs in that way. My defensive bias is clear, but both me and you have a really soft spot for runners getting their respect.
Yeah. Coach of the year, I put Dan Campbell. You put Brian Daboll. because you think the Giants are going to be the number one seed in the NFC.
I did not ever say that. Why are you saying that? Oh my God. People are probably going to fucking believe that. I put Brian Daboll because I had a stoner moment and totally forgot he already won that. Like that's what and then the Giants fan in me said, fuck it, win back to back. Like that's the truth of it. It wasn't that I think we're going to be number one anything. I just feel like that dude.
He texted me on the side and said the Giants will be the number one seed. I'm just saying.
No, I talked to him on the side and told him, fuck Big Ben. Eli Manning's better. That's actually what I said to him. But
and then we have Odell as comeback player of the year.
I can't believe we agreed 3 times. Like the Bijan, I'm not surprised. The other ones, I'm like, wow. Like, because I thought, because Odell, sure. It's like the easiest one to pick. He's a media darling, right? I would have sworn
where's the third
we're going to put TJ Watt and comeback player of the year.
Oh, you know what's funny? I never thought about it. Well, you know what? Because when I think of comeback player, like he came back last year, like he didn't miss the rest of the season. You know what I mean? So it's not like he would even qualify per se for comeback player of the year. So you know, who knows? But yeah, OBJ made the most sense. We technically agree on defensive player of the year. If I had to pick, I'm picking TJ Watt. I just, for some reason, I'm reading the tea leaves and I feel like they just don't want to give him the award. So that's the only reason why I didn't put him there. But technically, we agree on defensive player of the year. It should be TJ Watt. All right, for the playoffs picture, I have the Ravens, Bills, Jags, and Chiefs winning the divisions with the Jets, Steelers, and Chargers getting in. This is not in any particular order, so I don't know what the seedings are going to be, but these are just the 7 teams that I have in there. Charles has the Bengals, Jags, Chiefs, and Bills, with the Ravens, Jets, and Steelers making the playoffs.
So me and you have the Jags, the Bills, and the Chiefs, and we definitely think they're winning the division.
Yeah. And you think the Bengals will still win the North. I think the Ravens will sneak in there and win. I don't have the Bengals making the wild card at all. Again, only because their schedule is ridiculous. And again, if they get off to a slow start, I just don't see how they turn it on and just, scorch earth again. I could be wrong. But let me be very clear. It's not that I don't think the Bengals are going to be good. I just have them missing the playoffs because, again, their schedule is just that much harder than everybody else in the division. Like, that's a big deal. You got to play the Bills and the Chiefs. Nobody else does. Like, that's a big deal. Those are 2 extra potential. And I know they always play the Chiefs well, but those are 2 extra potential losses on your schedule. Like, that could be the difference between making the playoffs and not. That could be the difference between winning. Again, I think the North's going to be close. That could be the difference between winning the NFC North, AFC North, and not even making the playoffs because of tiebreakers and all this other stuff. So I think that's the biggest one. People are going to say, oh, my God, how do you not have the Bengals making the playoffs? You're a hater. No, it's literally because they're not healthy right now, and they have a hard as fuck schedule. So I'm just not seeing them being able to make up enough ground towards the end of the year like they usually do.
That's so you're not keeping Jamar Chase in fantasy.
I can't, unfortunately. Tears.
Good.
Tears. All right, NFC picture is a little bit more. We agree a little more here. Eagles, Vikings, Niners, Saints. For me, with the Lions, Cowboys, and Seahawks making the playoffs. Making the wild card. You have the Lions, Saints, Eagles, Niners. So we only disagree on the North again, which is interesting.
Which came out in our conversation.
But the wild card is completely different because the only team we agree on is the Cowboys. You have your Giants and the Bears making the wild card. That's interesting. Again,
I kind of gave it away earlier with Justin Fields, and I think they will benefit from an easier schedule, just like the Giants did last year. Again, I have the Giants making the playoffs because if I have Daboll as coach of the year, you're not going to be coach of the year and not make the playoffs. So
because he really thinks the Giants are going to be the number 1 seed. That's why
I have them at the wild card. They're obviously the number 1 seed.
He knew he couldn't get away with that on the pod, so he put him as a wild card team. But he really wants them to be the number 1 seed.
Bro, if the Giants were to make the Super Bowl, not even win, make the Super Bowl, I will be the most insufferable motherfucker on this planet, and all of you will pay.
Oh, we know. We know. All right. And then, spoiler, we both have a rematch. We both have the Chiefs winning. We're boring in that way. Again, I really was trying to think of a team to come out the NFC. I couldn't think of it, bro. Because again, unless you're telling me the Eagles are just going to have that Super Bowl hangover, which again, history tells me they could, I just don't see it.
Unless it's if it's not the Eagles, it's the Niners or the Giants. So
see. Again, I was all in on saying, you know what? Let me put the Cowboys in here. But again, the Cowboys proved to me like, yeah, don't ever bet on the Cowboys.
So, no, in all seriousness, I Chiefs Eagles was my first go-to, and then in the far depths of my imagination, out of the AFC, if it wasn't the Chiefs, I thought maybe it's the Bills year. Then I thought maybe the Jags surprise. If you win enough in the regular season, you only got to win 4 games.
Honest to God, out of the AFC, and this is really weird because,
and I also had the Jets. I want to keep it a buck. I did think for a second. I was like, bro, the Jets have Aaron Rodgers. So
that's what I was gonna say. Honestly, if my thing is with the Chiefs, until somebody knocks them off, I will not bet against them. I just can't do it. That's just I'm not going to disrespect them. They've been to 5 straight AFC Championship games, so we know they're going to at least get close. You know what I mean? Type of situation. They've been to 3 Super Bowls, won 2 of them. So until somebody just knocks them off, I can't do that. You know what I mean? I think I had Bills Vikings last year, and the Bills let me down, and the Vikings let me down. So I'm not going to do that again. But my thing is, if I had to pick another team outside of the Chiefs, it probably would be the Jets. Which is weird to say because the Jets haven't done anything, and Aaron Rodgers hasn't even been to the Super Bowl since 2010 / 2011. But again, if I'm looking at complete teams in the AFC, it is kind of the Jets. It's just the Jets are so young that even though they have Aaron Rodgers, I just don't believe them to get there. The AFC is just loaded. It really might depend on the matchups, bro. That's why I wasn't even gonna do seeding because that's impossible. I was just gonna say what the 7 teams are. The matchups might be it, bro. If the Jets don't have to play the Chiefs until the AFC Championship game, and God forbid the Chiefs do get knocked out, they could beat almost any other team in the league. You know what I mean?
I feel like it's the Chiefs and everybody else. It's the Pat syndrome, right? It's one of those things where we had the Pats in the Super Bowl every year for the AFC, unless you really felt strong about the Steelers or the Ravens that year.
Yeah,
that was 20 years. Or the Colts. I'm sorry, and whatever team Peyton Manning was on, but it was Tom Brady and friends in one conference for forever. And the irony is, the Chiefs are here now. So and the same with the Eagles. Until the Eagles look like they're falling off, I don't know who besides the Niners are a realistic team, because there's always any given Sunday. The Eagles could get beat by the Cowboys in the playoffs. The Eagles could get beat by the Giants in the playoffs. The Eagles could get beat by any team in the playoffs because they get caught sleeping.
He's had bad by his standards. He's had bad playoff games before, so it's not impossible, but it's one of those things where when it comes down to it, he usually steps up, man, and he's the best quarterback in football. And this is a league now where when you have the best quarterback, you're gonna win. The NFL quarterbacks are starting to become like the NBA, where best player wins. Period. It's starting to become that. Quarterbacks have so much, on their shoulders. If you're the best guy, you're going to the same issue I had with Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett's going to be really good. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people how good he is. If he's not a top 3 quarterback in the conference, we have no chance. He could be the 4th best quarterback in the conference. That's not going to be good enough, because that means you got to be better than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and whoever else. And it's that's impossible. At some point, I'm going to have to give you the ball, Kenny Pickett, and say, outperform that dude. Okay, cool. And I'll do it again next week. Okay, cool. And I'll do it again next week. That's almost an impossible task to ask somebody to do. So, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those weird things. But anyway, this was our NFL preview. I don't think we have another slide. No, we don't. Okay.
I got to run either way. So.
Right, exactly. So, Appreciate you guys. I'm for Brother Bone. You can find me at Never for Brett, me NEVA_4 BRETT_ME on Instagram and Twitter and Threads, by the way.
Not the Chuck D on all the socials, all one word, at _dope blog on Instagram, the dope blog, all one word on Twitter, because fuck calling that X, and www.thedope.blog. And we are also on Threads somewhere on both our individuals, and the dope blog is also on Threads.
Yeah, the_dope blog.
The _dope blog is on Threads.
Yes, because you're watching this on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, and join us next time we continue to discuss other people's excellence.
And comment on the bottom all the things that you disagree with everything we said.
Yeah, give us your Super Bowl predictions, all that, MVP, all that stuff.
Tell us why you think the Giants are getting ring number 5 this year.
Football season is upon us. Let's go.
The strive for 5, baby. Go Big Blue.
Yeah, your number 1 seeded New York Giants.
Eli Manning, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Goodbye.